The action unfolds in an ordinary city. In it, everywhere there were gray, monotypical high-rise buildings. The main character is an ordinary guy. He was crying, looking at his phone, looking like his heart had been broken. The main character receives a message from his girlfriend saying that they need to break up. His name is Chen Yuan. The guy was shocked by such a statement from the girl. He started typing quickly and asked what was wrong. The girl's name was Tun Tun. At first, Chen Yuan thought that he and his roommates had decided to play truth or action, and it was all just a joke. The guy didn't understand what he had done wrong. Chen Yuan had already planned their future. He believed that they would have a wonderful family and 2 beautiful children. Apparently, it was because the guy couldn't buy her a purse even though he was saving up for it. Tung Tung restricted who could send her messages. Chen Yuan's roommates noticed that he was in a bad mood today. The guy was depressed because of such an unexpected turn. Chen Yuan thumped the table loudly, causing his plate of noodles to flip over. The guy got up from the table, walked out of the room and slammed the door. His roommates realized that the guy had been dumped again, the 6th time this month. Chen Yuan was called a stickler in common parlance. He had been after Shu Tong for 3 years. Shu Tong and Chen Yuan met on the street. The girl asked the guy not to do that, because people are watching. Chen Yuan bought the girl her favorite roast pork. He asked her not to talk about the breakup. The guy was willing to change and earn more. Shu Tong was not angry with Chen Yuan. Her ex-boyfriend wants to get back together with her. The girl came to the conclusion that he needs her more. Her ex-boyfriend's name was Huang Junkai. Chen Yuan didn't understand how a girl could get back together with him. Chen Yuan thought he was a scumbag after all. He had cheated Shu Tong in the past, and the girl is letting him mess with her mind again. At this moment, an expensive car pulled up to the guys. Huang Junkai was sitting in it. He told the girl to get in. Shu Tong thought that they had better not date Chen Yuan anymore, because her boyfriend might misunderstand it. The girl jumped into the car with Huang Junkai, and they drove off, leaving Chen Yuan behind. Chen Yuan threw the gift he was going to give to the girl into the trash. The guy walked into a convenience store, not far from his house. Only it had lights on. Chen Yuan didn't understand why no one appreciated sincerity. He wondered if he was so pathetic that he could only suck up to everyone. Chen Yuan believed that there was nothing wrong with being courteous. The guy fiercely squeezed the bottle of water. Chen Yuan believed that one only needed to do it to the proper extent, and then he would become a Casanova instead of a sycophant. At this moment, a notification came from the strongest sticking system. It had identified a suitable candidate for a host. The connection was successful. A notice appeared, showing Chen Yuan's personal funds, his reinforcement sticking system account. Chen Yuan wanted to touch the system, to see what it allowed him to do, as at this moment, a girl approached him. She thought that Chen Yuan wanted to touch her. The girl got angry and thought he was a pervert. The girl noticed that Chen Yuan had been staring at her like this since the beginning. His head must be messed up. At this moment, Chen Yuan saw that the system was showing the girl's name, Shu Lalai, her age, weight, attractiveness index, and disposition towards him. The system also reported that once the disposition parameter reached 96 points, a counterattack could be made, and she would become a fan of the host. Chen Yuan realized that he needed to spend this money on women. He now had 90 quadrillion. This amount was stored on a bank card, but only women can use it. When the girl becomes a fan of the master, 1/10 of the amount spent will be deposited into Chen Yuan's personal account. Chen Yuan understood how the system worked. He was about to spring into action. Chen Yuan felt that it was possible to use Shu Lele as a guinea pig. Chen Yuan asked the girl not to get angry. He was willing to buy in anything he wanted from this store. Completing this task earns you a reward, 5 reinforcement points that can be used to improve your performance. Shu Lala thought that the guy was pretending to be rich and just wanted to show off in front of her. Shu Lalai was the first beauty in the faculty. She is quite skillful at spending other people's money. Everyone thought that Chen Yuan was in trouble. Chen Yuan asked the girl not to throw words around, because if she didn't try, she wouldn't learn anything. Shu Lala felt that today was a great day to treat all her classmates to some yummy treats. She asked if Chen Yuan would pay for it. Shu Lala noticed that the guy was dressed like a beggar but trying to show off to her. She was going to embarrass him. In the same instant, Chen Yuan transferred 50,000 yuan to the girl's account. She was very surprised. All passers-by were shocked that the guy so easily transferred such a sum, because he looks as unremarkable as possible. And it turns out that the major. Chen Yuan was pleased with himself. He had done well. He opened the messaging app. Chen Yuan asked if this amount was enough to get Shu Lala's V-shut. Shu Lala realized that she had made a mistake, and Chen Yuan was indeed a major. The girl smirked slyly. She was glad she had met the guy. She had a plan. Shu Lala told Chen Yuan not to worry. She was going to add her WeChat to his phone. The girl approached Chen Yuan and said that for starters, the guy would go to a place with her. She was going to see how long he would last. It was late evening. The buildings on the streets twinkled with lights. Many people went about their business. Shu Lala wanted to clarify something. She clarified that she was not a mercantile girl at all. She just wants to see how sincere and serious Chen Yuan is about her. The guys were heading towards an expensive store. Everything was going according to Chen Yuan's plan. After all, the more the girl spent now, the more would be returned to the guy. Chen Yuan told Shulala to choose what she liked. The guy thought that the girl was a great specimen to test the system. Shulala took one of the very expensive bags. She asked if it would suit her. At this moment, Chen Yuan noticed that in the same store were Shu Tong along with Huang Junkai. Shu Tong turned around and noticed Chen Yuan as well. She was surprised at what a guy was doing in such an expensive store. Chen Yuan was very surprised that he met Shu Tong so quickly. There was no face on the guy. At this moment, Shu Lele pressed up against him. She asked if she was Chen Yuan's ex-girlfriend. She must have had a bad time. Chen Yuan was a little annoyed that they had met, however. He said that on the contrary, everything was very timely. Shulala asked the consultant if they had any of the spring show handbags on sale. She said they had the last one left. The counselor said another customer was trying it on right now and pointed to Shu Tong. Shu Tong thought that there was still no way Chen Yuan would leave her alone. She was now going to show that the guy was no match for Junkai. Shu Tong ran up to her new boyfriend with the same purse in her hands. The girl said that her birthday was coming up. Junkai was very surprised since the girl had only recently celebrated her birthday. Shu Tong explained that that was the birthday of the lunar calendar and soon the birthday of the solar calendar. Huan Junkai was angry. He realized that the girl was trying to fool him. The guy said he didn't like mercantile girls. He asked if it was just because of money that Shu Tong was with him. Shu Tong was frightened. She was very surprised by Huan Junkai's words. She didn't know how to act. At this moment, Shulala grabbed the purse that was hanging on Shu Tong's shoulder. Shulala apologized. She said that if the girl doesn't buy it, she will take it for herself. The system notification came, adding 20 points to Shulala's location. Chen Yuan paid for the purchase. The girl was very happy with her upgrade, another 20 points added to Shulala's disposition. Chen Yuan realized what the true power of money was. It was all just a bag, and the 60 points was already in his pocket. Chen Yuan thought that the cashback could have been bigger, since he wouldn't get that much in the end. The store employees began to discuss this situation. They remembered that their store manager had said many times that guests should not be prejudiced. Appearances are deceiving. Shulala smugly remarked that she had taken both the bag and the guy, that she was a better owner than Shu Tong. Shulala thought that a big fish like Chen Yuan couldn't be missed. Shulala ran to Chen Yuan and grabbed his hand. She thanked the guy and noticed that he was very generous. Shu Tong saw this scene and was very upset. Tears came to her eyes. She ran towards the guys and snatched Chen Yuan's hand. The girl was very angry. Chen Yuan was very pleased with himself. He thought that they had just started. He wanted to take revenge on the girl. At this moment, the system found a second object. It was Lin Shu Tong. Her disposition towards her master was going into the minus side. The girl angrily ran out of the store, Huang Junkai rushing after her. Shulala asked if Chen Yuan was laughing. The girl didn't mind playing along a bit. She asked where they were going next. Chen Yuan hesitated for a bit. They were still standing in this expensive bag store the same way. Chen Yuan said that they would go and continue to spend money. After all, a mere purse would not be enough for the girl. Chen Yuan, along with Shulala, went further shopping to pick out her upgrades. The guys went into very expensive boutiques. Shulala did nothing but point out the expensive bags and clothes. Chen Yuan was willing to buy whatever the girl wanted. He took out his card and asked to wrap up all the purchases. The store's consultant said that they would deliver the selected items to the specified address. Shulala was already in love with Chen Yuan. The more the guys went shopping in expensive stores, the more Shulala's disposition increased. The guys bypassed almost all expensive stores. Next, they went to a cosmetics store and bought up a tidy sum there. This was followed by a clothing boutique. Shulala didn't hesitate to buy expensive clothes. At some point, the girl thought that was enough. If they kept buying, it wouldn't all fit in her apartment. Chen Yuan briefly said that in that case, he was willing to buy her an apartment. Shulala thought that this was somehow not good. Chen Yuan had already spent so much money, and this was their first time meeting. The girl's disposition dropped. Chen Yuan realized that it seemed like he had scared her. And indeed, if he was told that they would buy a house, he would also feel uncomfortable. Chen Yuan approached the girl and started telling facts about her. He knew she was in her 3rd year at the Art Institute, her favorite cuisine, shoe size, and favorite things. Chen Yuan said that if he didn't like all of this, he wouldn't have acted recklessly. Chen Yuan was going to replenish the store's members' savings card so that Shulala could buy herself the best next time. This card was needed to smooth the way after a bad joke about buying an apartment. Shulala became embarrassed. She liked Chen Yuan's actions. Chen Yuan leaned into the girl's ear and said that if she was uncomfortable, she could offer him something interesting. Shulala was embarrassed. She slapped Chen Yuan's face and thought he was a pervert. However, her race increased. The store consultants were surprised that Chen Yuan is unassuming but very rich and also very generous to his woman. Shulala noticed that Chen Yuan had bought her a lot of gifts and suggested that she think about a boyfriend. Chen Yuan replied that he had no money. This was the truth, as he could only spend it on girls. Shulala thought that now it was her turn to give a gift to Chen Yuan. She thought it was worth it for her to invest in this big fish. The guys went to the store so that the girl could give Chen Yuan a gift. It was already nighttime. The guys walked into a clothing store. Shulala started to pick out a suitable outfit for Chen Yuan. After that, they went to the barber shop. Chen Yuan did not need a haircut. Finally, all the activities were completed. Chen Yuan was ready to show the girls results. Chen Yuan appeared in a completely different image in front of her. Now he looked very stylish. Shulala's disposition increased. The girl was surprised at how attractive the guy was. It was only worth dressing him up a little. Chen Yuan asked if he looked strange, since this was the first time he had encountered something like this. Shulala replied that there was nothing strange. She thought that they looked good together now. The girl let go of Chen Yuan. It was already time for her to leave. Shulala said that she was very happy. She thanked Chen Yuan for a moment. She even thought that she had fallen in love. The girl's disposition was 68. Chen Yuan returned to the dormitory. His roommates were shocked at the guy's appearance. They didn't understand what he had been doing all day, or what he was wearing. Chen Yuan replied that he was on a date with Shulala. The guy was pleased with himself. The guys were shocked that he hadn't decided anything with Shu Tong, but he had already taken up with another girl, and the first beauty of the faculty. One of the guys thought that this girl was unaffordable for Chen Yuan. He thanked the guys for their advice. At this time, a message came from Shu Tong. She wrote that if the guy really hates her so much, they should just delete each other from their friends. Chen Yuan felt that these manipulations were no longer working for him. If they removed each other, he wouldn't be able to make any money. Chen Yuan said that the girl is special to him, Shu Tong, and explained that she is with Junkai because of the money needed for her mom's treatment. Chen Yuan replenished the girl's account with 50,000 yuan in the blink of an eye. Shu Tong was in shock. She didn't understand what had happened. Screams were heard from the girl's dormitory. Her roommate asked, "Who is this rich man that is throwing around such money? Is it really Junkai?" Shu Tong was angry at her boyfriend because he couldn't even buy a simple bag. She told her that it was Chen Yuan. Her roommate didn't understand where this guy got that kind of money. She was shocked. Shu Tong wondered if she was wrong about the guy, and she wanted to ask him directly. Shu Tong asked the guy in the correspondence how he got so much money, what their relationship with Shulala was like. The girl kept texting Chen Yuan until he replied. She said she wanted roast pork and asked if he didn't like it. In the end, many messages from Shu Tong accumulated. Chen Yuan didn't read them. The girl already thought that he had fallen asleep. Chen Yuan thought Shu Tong was too chatty. He turned on the Do Not Disturb mode. Chen Yuan thought that Shulala was not so hurried in this regard. The guy hesitated. Chen Yuan wondered where else to spend a lot of money on a woman. He looked at his phone. That's when an idea came to the guy. He realized he could try it with live streaming. Chen Yuan stopped by Xiaomir's broadcast. She asked her subscribers to send gifts. Her subscribers corresponded with each other. They competed to see who would send the girl the most money. Chen Yuan realized that one could spend much more in this place than for a bag in the store. He believed that he had entered the right app. Chen Yuan went to the gift menu. He chose the most expensive one, a rocket. Xiaomir thanked the lone wolf for the rocket. She showed him a heart. At that moment, something caught the girl's attention. She was very surprised at what was beginning to happen. Chen Yuan started sending hundreds of missiles to the girl. She realized that it was worth a lot and was shocked. Xiaomir knew that 100 rockets was 1 million yuan. All her subscribers as well as the girl herself were shocked. All subscribers were surprised by such a rich man. They wanted him to transfer money to them too. At this time, Chen Yuan was watching the stream sitting on his bed. He thought that the subscribers were really snobs. Chen Yuan was going to please them some more. He wanted to spend as much money as possible. Chen Yuan went to the menu and chose to send 900 missiles to the girl. The missiles traveled to Xiaomir in the blink of an eye. They were sent by the lone wolf, Chen Yuan. Rockets filled the entire screen of the phone, so many that the girl was no longer visible. At this point, the streaming app in the office told the boss that the unbelievable had happened. They were told that just now some unknown rich man had just given Xiaomir 10 million yuan. The boss was shocked. He thought it might be some crook who was laundering money. Meanwhile, in the streamer's break room, everyone was in shock and actively discussing what had happened. The girls were going to write to the lone wolf faster. They found out that he was rich and had just transferred 10 million to one of them. The girls realized that a couple of these missiles would cover their monthly salary. Notifications began to arrive on Chen Yuan's phone. Xiaomir couldn't believe that this wasn't a dream and someone had actually donated 10 million yuan to her. At this moment, someone steadied Xiaomir. The girl needed to be brought to her senses. The assistant boss announced that the man said to take a lone wolf and he was giving an extra 10%. Xiaomir knew it herself. She would never give such a large fish to others. The girl thanked the lone wolf, asking him to send a private message so she could thank him properly. Xiaomir herself texted Chen Yuan. She said that her broadcast would last another 5 minutes. I asked to reply to the message, however. Chen Yuan was already asleep. The next day came. The sun was shining brightly. The weather was perfect. Chen Yuan started reading the news on his phone. Everyone there wrote that someone spent a lot of money in the shark, but the identity remains a mystery. His roommates were also discussing the situation. They would like a little bit of money too. Chen Yuan realized that he had spent so much money yesterday, the system had not contacted Xiaomir. Chen Yuan wondered if this required a face-to-face meeting. All the money had been wasted. Chen Yuan opened his phone. There were many private messages from many girls. His roommates were already ready to leave. At this time, Chen Yuan was staring at his phone. Chen Yuan asked what the guys were doing and why they didn't call him. The guys replied that they were going to class. Today was an open class, and they were going to enjoy the beauty of Zhao Yuki. One of the guys asked if Chen Yuan was going with them, since he used to run there first. Chen Yuan remembered Zhao Yuki. The girl was indeed very beautiful, with long dark hair. Chen Yuan liked her. He decided to still go to class with the guys. The weather outside was perfect. The sun was shining brightly and the boys were rushing to the university. Zhao Yuki was the president of the Hunan University Student Union and the dream of all the guys. At this time, all the boys had come to the lecture and were taking seats in the auditorium. Zhao Yuki, in addition to all his other virtues, plays the piano beautifully. The girl is also the chairperson of the ballet company, has a second division in fencing and incredible looks. The girl keeps herself apart all the time. In her 3 years of training, no one had managed to conquer this Everest yet. Chen Yuan thought she was a great opportunity. One of the girls noticed Chen Yuan. She was surprised that the guy had changed and dressed up so much in these couple of days. Shu Tong thought it was all to impress her, her disposition increasing. Chen Yuan noticed that it was worth dressing up a little, and her disposition improved in an instant. She really is a superficial woman. Chen Yuan wondered how to add Zhao Yuki to the system. Chen Yuan heard someone tell someone else to show him how he would conquer the beautiful Zhao Yuki. It was a group of guys. One of them thought that now the girl was going to fall for him definitively and irrevocably. Chen Yuan was angry that right before his eyes, the one he was targeting was being taken away. This guy got very close to Zhao Yuki. Chen Yuan tried his best to stop him. This guy had a plan. They were supposed to meet and then start dating. At that moment, someone grabbed this guy by his shirt. The guy was very surprised. It was Wu Xiaofei, Zhao Yuki's roommate. She was threatening this guy with a pen. The guy got really scared. He started making excuses that it was just a misunderstanding and he wanted to join the student union. However, Wu Xiaofei didn't believe him, but thought it was a very dumb excuse to pick up a girl. Zhao Yuki was trying to calm her friend down. At this time, Chen Yuan approached her and said that he would like to add the girl to the WeChat. Wu Xiaofei was angry. She was surprised that another guy dared to approach today. All the guys were very surprised that Chen Yuan was very brave and not afraid to lose face in front of the whole group. Wu Xiaofei thought Chen Yuan was prettier than the previous guy. She asked if he wanted to join the studio. Chen Yuan replied that he wasn't really interested in all these student affairs. Xiaofei was asked what the guy was seeing Zhao Yuki for in such a case. Chen Yuan asked, wasn't it obvious? He was very confident. The guy replied that he wanted to hit on Zhao Yuki. He held out his phone to her. Zhao Yuki immediately became embarrassed. The girl blushed. She was embarrassed. The guys were shocked. They thought Chen Yuan was crazy because of such a bold act. The guys were sure that Zhao Yuki would definitely leave him in the end. The girl smiled. She took the guy's phone and decided to give him a chance. Everything was going according to his plan. Shu Tong's friend asked if Chen Yuan was not her personal dog. Was there any problem? Chen Yuan believed that simplicity is not bad, and sometimes the most obvious is also the most effective. The system had found a new target. It was Zhao Yuki. Currently, her disposition was 0. The girl entered her number into Chen Yuan's WeChat. He was very happy that he had succeeded. Chen Yuan's friends were surprised that he was on a roll today, and having such success, they noticed that he had changed. One of the guys asked Chen Yuan if he would introduce them to Zhao Yuki's beautiful girlfriends if things worked out. At this moment, someone called out to Chen Yuan. He was very angry at the guy. This was the same guy who had tried to hit on Zhao Yuki earlier. Chen Yuan asked if the guys wanted to embarrass themselves even more since they were professionals at it. That same guy was very angry at Chen Yuan. He would have already wanted to attack him, but he was stopped. This was the moment Chen Yuan noticed something. He was very surprised and stunned. Shu Lalai stood in front of him. She said that she had been waiting for a guy for a long time. All the guys around were shocked that the first beauty of the Faculty of Art, 6th in the ranking of beauties of the entire university, was waiting for Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan said that he was a fool for making such a pretty girl wait for him, and promised to treat her. Shu Lalai asked if Chen Yuan liked the way she looked. She was wearing Chen Yuan's updates. Chen Yuan thought that everything looked great on the girl. At this moment, Shu Tang became very angry. Shu Lala said that people liked it too. The boys walked away. The same guy was crying with sadness. He didn't understand what was wrong with him. This is the moment someone said the same thing. The girl didn't understand what was wrong with her either. It was Shu Tang. She was crying and didn't understand why things had turned out like this. She was Shu Lala before Shu Lala after all. It was a clear day outside, the sun shining brightly, reflecting in the windows of the buildings. Shu Lala happily announced that she had a gift for Chen Yuan. She was holding a piece of paper. There was a portrait of Chen Yuan on it. The girl had stayed up late to sketch it. Shu Lele informed that if Chen Yuan threw it away, she would not forgive it. Chen Yuan was honored, as this was the first gift from a girl in his entire life. Shu Lala smiled sweetly and asked if the guy liked the gift. Chen Yuan didn't know what to reply. He hesitated. In an instant, Chen Yuan's facial expression changed. He lowered his head and became very gloomy. Chen Yuan realized that most likely all these gestures from the girl were all bait. After all, once he spent a couple thousand on her, she would elaborate on how to catch Chen Yuan. However, Chen Yuan was no longer the same, so he also had his own plan. Shu Lala noticed that Chen Yuan didn't look particularly happy. He didn't seem to like the gift. Chen Yuan asked what it was for. He had a cold, indifferent look. The girl started to say that she was painting this late at night especially for him. At this moment, Chen Yuan grabbed that piece of paper with his portrait on it. Chen Yuan approached the girl and said that if not, how will she respond to all the gifts from the young man? Shu Lala shouted in embarrassment that the guy had scared her. But Chen Yuan was not going to give her the drawing because he would keep it. Chen Yuan took the girl's hand. He approached her and was about to say something. Chen Yuan said that more than Shu Lala's gift, he liked the girl herself. Shu Lala was embarrassed. She looked at Chen Yuan with surprise and fell in love with him little by little. The girl realized that Chen Yuan was not bad at flirting. Her disposition increased. This was Chen Yuan's plan. He was not sincere in his feelings and smirked slyly. He realized that the girl wanted to tease him, but he only needed her for the money. At this moment, someone ran up to the guys. He called out to Shu Lala. Chen Yuan was very surprised. He abruptly turned around to look at this person. It was a guy with glasses. He ran up and abruptly disengaged the guy's hands in one motion. The guy asked, "Didn't Shu Lala arrange for her best friend to do her nails?" He didn't understand who this guy was. The guy didn't realize if the girl had already done marigolds with Chen Yuan and then made out with him. The guy asked if Chen Yuan had money and if it was all about them, and he himself had been chasing after her for a long time. Chen Yuan realized that this boy was an admirer of Shu Lala. He had seen this kind of behavior before. Shu Lala was indignant. She asked who this guy was to her in general. He shouldn't be concerned with her personal life. The girl turned away and walked away from this guy. He was following her. Chen Yuan stood in front of the guy. He introduced himself and asked, "How long has this guy been humiliated like this?" The guy's name was Wang Yu. He was also from the art faculty and has been trying to woo the girl for half a year now. Chen Yuan exhaled. He was familiar with this kind of guy's behavior. Chen Yuan said that this reminds him of something. He once chased after the same girl for 3 whole years. The guy worked 4 jobs and subsisted on rolls and steamed buns. And at the end of the day, this girl still chose to get into someone else's Mercedes. Wang Yu was amazed by this story. He didn't understand how it was so and thought that it was too much. Chen Yuan explained that those who dump them motivate them to become better men, and a real man is bound to have a worthy woman. Chen Yuan told the guy to go back to the dorm and forget about her. When he succeeds, Shu Lele will definitely regret his choice. Shu Lala didn't understand what was even going on here, and whether Wang Yu was really crying. Shu Lala decided to try her best to explain everything. She said that the guy was just a friend, and she never thought this would happen. Chen Yuan clarified that he did not care about Shu Lala's past. He looked gloomy. The guy thought the girl had no respect for him or herself. He tore up her drawing. Chen Yuan said that the girl can continue to use the card he gave her yesterday. However, until she can sort out her surroundings and learn how to socialize with people, they'd better not see each other. Chen Yuan was curious to see how Shu Lala was going to put up with being treated like this, and what she would do. Bitter tears flowed from the girl's eyes. She was truly hurt, for this was the first time someone had been so condescending to her. Her ego was hurt. The girl didn't know what to do to get her relationship back with her boyfriend. Shu Lala thought that Chen Yuan really liked her. She was bitter that she had messed up like this. Shu Lala's disposition increased. Chen Yuan walked away from her. Chen Yuan noticed that the worse he treats a woman, the more she loves him. Chen Yuan realized that he was done with Shu Lala, and it was time to take on Zhao Yuki. The guy picked up his phone and saw that the girl was now live streaming. Zhao Yuki was broadcasting live at this time. She introduced herself. The girl was just learning how to interact with the audience. Chen Yuan thought it was very cute, and perhaps the girl only looked so cold, but she was actually quite open-minded. There were 314 people at her broadcast. Chen Yuan didn't think that was enough. A guy entered under his nickname, Lone Wolf. Xiao Mir immediately said hello to him. Chen Yuan didn't remember who she was. The girl reminded him of herself. Chen Yuan offered to meet her, however. The girl was very busy. Chen Yuan realized that Xiao Mir only wanted to divvy him up. There was still no systematic notification of communication with her. At this time, Zhao Yuki was about to participate in the battle. Chen Yuan received a notice about it. The girl's broadcast was also followed by Wu Xiaofei. She was surprised by the battle. Chen Yuan was curious to see Zhao Yuki battle. He was looking forward to it. Xiao Mir explained that she had accidentally challenged a new girl to a battle. It looked like victory was in her pocket. Chen Yuan believed that it was quite difficult to predict the winner in this case. The battle was about to begin, featuring Xiao Mir against Zhao Yuki. Xiao Mir had a much larger audience. She was very popular and was confident of her victory. The girl was sure that her opponent shouldn't even try, because her audience was much better. Moreover, she was supported by a lone wolf. Everyone in the chat room stirred up. Hearing about the lone wolf, they remembered it was that tycoon. Xiao Mir was sure that the lone wolf was already hooked after all. She had experience catching big fish. The lone wolf started sending out missiles. He sent one to Xiao Mir. The girl thanked the lone wolf. She was very confident. However, the next moment her pride was shattered. She was shocked at what she saw. The lone wolf started sending hundreds of missiles to Zhao Yuki. Xiao Mir was shocked by this. Lone wolf ended up sending Zhao Yuki 1,000 missiles. This was a lot of money. Zhao Yuki was shocked at such a large donation. Her friend was also surprised. Xiao Mir didn't understand why all those missiles the lone wolf sent weren't to her. She was angry. The boss's assistant came to the girl and notified her that the boss demanded an explanation. Xiao Mir apologized to her subscribers. She had some business to attend to and needed to leave. She pulled the plug on the broadcast. Her viewers thought it was a total disgrace. Chen Yuan was pleased with himself. He can give gifts to other girls as well. Chen Yuan walked over to Zhao Yuki's stream again. It kept going on and on. Chen Yuan had an intimidating appearance. He had spent a lot of money on the girl and wanted her not to disappoint him. Meanwhile, back at the streaming app's office, the boss got a report that something terrible had happened. It had to do with that rich man, the lone wolf. The assistant ran into the boss's office. The boss already thought he donated 10 million again and thought the guy was oil rich. Meanwhile, in the streamer's lounge, the girls were animatedly discussing what had happened. They were surprised that the lone wolf transferred 10 million to the girl who played the piano. Probably in a musical mood today. One of the girls told the other to carry her triangle. The other told her to bring her sona. Meanwhile, it was already evening outside. The sun was slowly setting behind the university building. Zhao Yuki read the news. Her today's broadcast is at the top of all the trends. Wu Xiaofei was very happy about this. Her friend would become popular and be an internet celebrity. Zhao Yuki didn't want to make men on the internet happy. It didn't seem like a particularly attractive prospect to her. She believed that career was the most important thing for a woman. She should be independent both financially and in all other aspects. Wu Xiaofei told her friend to stop lecturing her. She had heard it all before. Wu Xiaofei asked her friend to confess if she knew this rich man who showered her with gifts. Zhao Yuki could tell her friend 1,000 times that she did not know him. The girl was angry. Zhao Yuki realized that this guy had sent really a lot. She felt that she should thank him. Wu Xiaofei was surprised after all. The girl had just said that she wasn't fazed by such a prospect. Right at this moment, Zhao Yuki shouted loudly. Wu Xiaofei was even startled by surprise. Wu Xiaofei slowly turned around and asked what happened. She was already scared. Zhao Yuki reported that perhaps she knows who the rich man is. Since the guy was in the girl's vichy, she could see his nickname, which was Lone Wolf. The girl began to imagine that Chen Yuan is the son of a wealthy man, but by nature he is quite modest, so he always pretends to live an ordinary life. She believed that by getting a better education, the guy realized that he didn't want to be the object of everyone's attention and wanted to live freely. And one day he met a girl he fell in love with and decided to win her, whatever it took, but as a normal person. Zhao Yuki was sure that it was exactly like that. Xiaofei asked her if she had reread the Romanovs. The girl kept on saying that Chen Yuan had been cool with all the best things since childhood, and it must be difficult for him to pretend to be an ordinary person. Zhao Yuki was certain that she should thank him from the bottom of her heart for such gifts. Meanwhile, at Chen Yuan's home, a notification arrived on his phone. The guy was just getting out of the shower. He toweled himself dry and looked at his phone. There was a message notification from Zhao Yuki. The guy decided to see what was there. The girl wanted to invite Chen Yuan to eat, and asked him what kind of cuisine he preferred. The guy replied that he likes to eat crawfish. Chen Yuan was surprised that the girl didn't even ask where he got so much money from and just invited him to dinner. Chen Yuan was going to see what Zhao Yuki was up to. The next day came. All the guys were leisurely walking to the university for the start of the school day. Chen Yuan was riding down the road on his motorcycle at this time. He was humming something to his tray. The guy stopped next to an expensive car. A man in a suit stood beside it. The man asked if Chen Yuan was waiting for someone. The man himself was here to pick up his girlfriend. At this moment, Zhao Yuki had already approached the meeting place. She looked around to find the guy. Chen Yuan noticed her. He was about to call out to her, but he was interrupted. The man told him not to even think about such a girl because it takes a lot of money and the guy has no chance. Zhao Yuki had just spotted Chen Yuan. She was on her way to meet him specifically. In her eyes, Chen Yuan was like a prince on a white horse. He looked much more handsome than in reality. Zhao Yuki was very excited to see such a handsome man and ran towards him in a flash. That man continued to say that the guy had no chance. At this time, the girl had already gotten on the motorcycle to Chen Yuan. The man was simply shocked. He didn't expect that Chen Yuan had come on a date with such a beautiful girl. At this time, the guys were already rushing to continue their date. The man looked at them in surprise, not expecting such a turn of events. The man cried with frustration, for he had made so much money and all to no avail. Meanwhile, Zhao Yuki was imagining herself in a romantic movie. She was wearing a white dress and holding on tightly to Chen Yuan. Looks like the girl was already head over heels in love with Chen Yuan. She pressed herself harder against his back. This was the moment Zhao Yuki had already returned to the ground. Chen Yuan said that they were already in place. The guys arrived at a not-so-expensive restaurant with a big crawfish sign, and there were a lot of people around. They were served 2 huge plates of crawfish, and warned that these dishes were quite spicy. Chen Yuan acted like a gentleman. He wiped the table in front of the girl. Zhao Yuki was delighted that even in such an unremarkable establishment, he didn't forget his manners. The girl thought that Chen Yuan was really well-mannered. The guy held out tissues to her so that she wouldn't get her hands dirty. Chen Yuan put on his gloves and started eating the crayfish one by one. The girl thought that they were the smallest crayfish he had ever eaten. Zhao Yuki was amazed that the guy was so rich but dining with her in such an unremarkable place. He probably just didn't want her to feel pressured. Zhao Yuki envisioned him as a beautiful prince who was like a lovely and delicate flower. Chen Yuan didn't understand why the girl's favor had increased. After all, he was just gorging on crayfish one after another. Zhao Yuki also started to eat. She took one of the crayfish and cleaned it up. The girl held out the crayfish to Chen Yuan and wanted to feed it. Zhao Yuki thanked Chen Yuan. She asked to be allowed to peel the shrimp for him. Chen Yuan was flattered by the girl's attitude like this. He hadn't expected it. Meanwhile, Shu Tong and Huang Zhengkai walked into the very same restaurant and said hello to them. At this moment, Shu Tong saw the scene of Zhao Yuki feeding Chen Yuan from her hands. The girl even thought that she had a vision problem, and it simply couldn't be that Zhao Yuki was doing such a thing. Shu Tong was angry, after all. First the guy was walking with Shu Lala and now with Zhao Yuki. She didn't understand what was wrong with him. Shu Tong noticed that there were a lot of people here and suggested her boyfriend to go somewhere else. Zhengkai realized what the matter was. He noticed that there were many familiar people here. The guy said he liked eating in crowded places and went to a table. He walked over to the table where Chen Yuan and Zhao Yuki were sitting. He approached the guys from the back. At this moment, Zhengkai threw a pile of bills on their table. They slowly descended onto the table. Chen Yuan was surprised. He didn't expect this and didn't understand what was going on. Zhengkai threw 5,500 pieces. He wanted to make this place free for that money. The bills landed on the guy's table. They fell right into the crawfish plate. Chen Yuan thought that this guy was obsessed, and he thinks that this kind of behavior makes him manly. Zhengkai asked if it wasn't enough. He thought that this amount was enough for him to move. At this moment, Zhao Yuki took her purse and angrily clutched it in her hands. Chen Yuan didn't understand why the girl was angry. After all, Zhengkai was the one trying to provoke him. Zhao Yuki cursed the tough pepper who came out of nowhere to ruin her perfect date. Zhengkai really thought that this money wasn't enough and took out some more from his wallet. At that moment, the money on the table was grabbed by someone and clutched in their hands. It was one of the waiters. He asked me to give him this money and then he would provide them with a new table. Zhengkai was very angry. He grabbed this guy and didn't want any new table. At that moment, someone hit Zhengkai in the face with a purse. His nose bled and a tooth was knocked out. Zhao Yuki awkwardly said that it wasn't her. The girl really was innocent. At this moment, a huge woman appeared behind the guy's back. She was angry at Zhengkai for having fun with girls for her money. It was a huge middle-aged woman. She had large forms and scared everyone around her. The woman's name was Wei Xiaoqing. Zhengkai didn't understand why she had come here. She said that if she hadn't come, she never would have known he was tumbling around with other girls behind her back. Zhengkai explained that it wasn't like that. He tried to justify that he couldn't screw around with others. After all he had thanks to Wei Xiaoqing. Zhengkai grabbed Shu Tong by the hair and accused her of thinking she could seduce a guy. The girl tried to justify herself. She said it wasn't like that, and he was the one who started courting her and said he didn't have a partner. Zhengkai punched the girl in the face and called her a liar. Shu Tong was lying battered on the floor. She had a frightened look and couldn't believe what was happening. Zhengkai asked, as she looked at him and swung her hand once more. At this moment, someone grabbed his hand and stopped Shu Tong from beating him. It was Chen Yuan. He thought that by beating women, he was dishonoring himself. Shu Tong thought that Chen Yuan still loved her. She was very happy and was crying partly. At this moment, Shu Tong's location had reached the 95-point mark. The guy finally achieved his goal. Chen Yuan's cashback amounted to 5,000 yuan. After gaining advantages, the guy decided to use the 10 points on attribute and physical characteristics. With this reinforcement, Chen Yuan was able to twist Junkai and disarm him. Junkai at this moment grabbed the bottle of wine that was behind his back. He swung it at Chen Yuan. He thought that the guy had decided to show off. Chen Yuan was confident in his strength. He glared viciously at his opponent. Chen Yuan struck Junkai's stomach with his fist. He flew far away from such a strong blow. Chen Yuan explained that there is nothing wrong with being supported by women, but beating women is an offense. Junkai was very angry that he had lost to Chen Yuan. He was going to do something else. Junkai took out a folding knife from his pocket. He was about to swing it. Zhao Yuki noticed this. She shouted to Chen Yuan and warned him. At this moment, Junkai had already swung his knife. He was about to stab his opponent with it. However, at this moment, a bang was heard. Chen Yuan was able to react in time. Chen Yuan knocked the knife out of Junkai's hand from his hand and snapped it. After that, the guy used martial arts techniques and threw his opponent over his back. A loud bang was heard in the crawfish restaurant. Everyone was very surprised. No one expected this. It was an unexpected outcome. Junkai was unconsciously lying on the floor. Everyone around them thought Chen Yuan was very attractive and mocked Junkai. Shu Tong clutched onto Chen Yuan's leg. She begged for his forgiveness and asked him to give her another chance to start over. Chen Yuan had a cold, indifferent look. He was not moved by the girl's words. The guy recalled an event from the past when he didn't have the system's powers yet. He once dragged Shu Tong himself 6 kilometers to the emergency room at 3 in the morning. In addition, he saved money for 6 months to buy her a cell phone, which the girl did not like. The guy wasn't always aware of how lighthearted and glorious the girl was, but he believed she would notice him. Chen Yuan explained that he was long dead. Shu Tong had already made his choice, and nothing could be changed. Shu Tong realized how badly she had treated the guy. The girl was crying. She was very sad. Chen Yuan apologized to Zhao Yuki for not being able to have a normal time. The girl said that today was great, and she got a chance to see the guy from a different perspective. Zhao Yuki felt that the further she knew him, the more mysterious the guy seemed. Zhao Yuki had a premonition that Chen Yuan would still surprise her in the future. The girl smiled slyly. She really liked Chen Yuan. Night had fallen. It was time for the boys to go home. The lights of the city were twinkling. At that moment, the pea-sized doors of the women's dormitory opened. Someone ran into the room. It was Shu Tong. Her friend was surprised to see a girl without an umbrella in such a heavy rain. The girl thought that her friend was so upset because she found out that Chen Yuan had donated $1 million to Zhao Yuki. Shu Tong didn't know this. She was even more angry and couldn't believe it. Her friend told her that Wu Xiaofei had blabbed. This information then spread throughout the sorority. Shu Tong was shocked. She couldn't believe it. There was no face on the girl. Tears came out of Shu Tong's eyes. She could barely control herself. However, a second later, she divorced. The girl cried out loudly. She was bitter that she had missed out on Chen Yuan. At this moment in the men's dormitory, the guys were awake. Someone shouted loudly and everyone was surprised. The guys were playing a game. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Chen Yuan had 18 consecutive victories. They already thought that he was a successful berserker. Chen Yuan didn't think that after distributing 20 reinforcement points, even playing games would become easier. The guys suggested that Chen Yuan become an example and pull them all along as he would start making millions. Chen Yuan noticed that the effect of the enhancement goggles was really obvious. He just had an incredible figure. Chen Yuan was already ready to call himself the Asian Sirkan Balat, though he then thought that the latter still wasn't as cool. Chen Yuan kept looking at his perfect body. He thought that he shouldn't be cheaping out on girls right now. The guys called out to Chen Yuan because he had already been in the bathroom for a long time. Someone had called him. It was Shu Lalai. Chen Yuan was surprised. After all, she was very late in calling. Chen Yuan was already thinking that the girl had once again thought of something to try and fool him. However, Chen Yuan was prepared and was not afraid to face her tricks. The guy picked up the phone, said hello, and asked what the girl needed. Shu Leila cried into the phone. She didn't know what to do at all. Chen Yuan was surprised. It was pouring outside. There were tons of cars on the roads. Everyone was on their way home from work. There was a pile of bags and things on the girl's desk. There was a mountain of stuff piled up. Shu Lala was sitting right in the center of the room. It was a mess. She didn't know how she should be. Shu Lala cried and asked Chen Yuan to lend her $500,000. Shu Lala said that her father is an addict and spends a huge amount of money on gambling. They had a fairly well-to-do family, but in an instant they were at rock bottom and had to borrow money. Shu Lala clarified that she was not mercantile. She just needed to pay back her debts. Chen Yuan wasn't going to listen for long. He asked for the card number. Shu Lala didn't expect such speed. She dictated her card number to him. A notification came that her bank account had been credited with 5 million yuan. Shu Lala was very surprised. After all, she had only asked for $500,000. Chen Yuan explained that he had made a mistake of 10. Shu Lala was simply shocked. She shouted loudly into the phone. Chen Yuan was even frightened. The girl's disposition began to grow. Chen Yuan received a notification from the system. Shu Lala was very grateful. She promised to definitely repay Chen Yuan. At this time in the men's dormitory, the light in Chen Yuan's room was still on. Shulala's disposition had reached 94 points, but it was still not enough. Chen Yuan wondered if it was worth it to act directly to achieve the goal. However, the one who first recognizes that he or she needs the other person is in a vulnerable position. He believed that when two armies clash, it is energy that decides, and if the enemy does not dare to act, then it is necessary to force him. The next day came. The sun was shining clear. It illuminated the university building. Chen Yuan was walking with one of the guys near the men's dormitory. He thought that the one should pick up a girl. At this moment, someone called out to Chen Yuan. The guy abruptly turned around. It was Shu Tang. The girl made Chen Yuan lunch and offered to go to class together. At this moment, someone else approached Chen Yuan and said that they had also prepared something for him. It was Shulala. She thought the guy was tired of this canteen food. She cooked him some seafood porridge. Shu Tang was very angry, for she wanted to win over Chen Yuan by any means necessary. Shulala also glared angrily at her opponent, for she was not used to losing. The girls still continued to stare at each other angrily as well. Chen Yuan didn't understand what he should do. At this moment, someone else approached the guys. He also called out to Chen Yuan. The guys thought another girl was hitting on him. They were shocked. It was Zhao Yuki. She brought Chen Yuan some beef noodles. Shu Tang and Shulala didn't understand what the girl was forgetting here. There were too many of them. The girls were already imagining going into the ring against each other to fight for Chen Yuan. The girls were amazed at the strength of the university's second beauty. She had an oppressive aura. The guy asked how Zhao Yuki knew he liked beef noodles. The girl replied that yesterday when they were eating crawfish, she realized that he liked it spicy, so she made this dish. Chen Yuan thought that it was very nice to be taken care of. He was surprised that the girl was so attentive. Zhao Yuki said that there is no need to be thankful, because breakfast is the most important meal, and you should consider the preferences of the person you are cooking for. Zhao Yuki added that when you don't expect such a nice gift, it is doubly pleasant. The girls still also imagined that they were in the market, and so far, Zhao Yuki was winning. The girl neutralized two opponents with one punch. They were knocked out. Zhao Yuki remembered something else. The girl held out a box to Chen Yuan. It was a thank you gift. It was the newest phone, the best model currently available. Chen Yuan was shocked that the chairman was giving him a gift and such an expensive one. All the guys were also shocked. The girls realized that it cost more than 10,000 yuan, and it seems the chairman is so affluent. It turned out that Zhao Yuki had dealt two more devastating blows to the girls who were no longer her rivals. Chen Yuan said that he shouldn't have spent so much. The girl replied that he had spent much more on her, and this gift was from the bottom of his heart. Some time has passed. The boys have already attended a few lectures at the university. Shu Tang just wanted to get Chen Yuan back. She didn't understand why it was so difficult. Shu Tang was shocked that a couple days had passed, and then Zhao Yuki showed up. Shulala walked over to the distraught girl and said that they needed to talk. Shu Tang didn't expect her opponent to approach her. She looked at her in surprise. The girl thought they had nothing to talk about, because the one was a conniving woman, and it was all because of her. Shulala had expected such a reaction from her. She was going to offer them a plan of action. Shulala suggested Shu Tang to team up. The latter didn't know what she was even talking about. Shulala wanted to unite to face the common enemy, Zhao Yuki, together. Meanwhile, Zhao Yuki along with Chen Yuan were walking nicely around the campus and talking about something. It was a sunny day outside. The guys' relationship was taking its course. Chen Yuan thought Zhao Yuki was really amazing since she had given him such an expensive phone. The guy held his phone in his hands and didn't know what to do. He looked after the girl. Zhao Yuki turned around and asked if everything was all right with the phone. The guy replied that everything was fine. There, as Chen Yuan saw her level of favor, it was low, meaning the girl was not in love with him. Chen Yuan realized that the girl was really smart and her methods were contentedly sophisticated and it was just a trap. Zhao Yuki lets the prey think that it is the hunter. The guy calmly walked down the street. Chen Yuan felt that he needed to find ways to speed up his progress. At this time, a notification came to his phone. It was from Xiao Meyer. She wished they had arranged to meet. She was just a little afraid of new acquaintances, but that didn't mean she didn't want to meet him. Chen Yuan was amused by this situation. After all, the girl didn't even send him a couple pictures. He understood everything. At this moment, another notification came to Chen Yuan's phone. He wanted to look at it. It was from the Dragon Emperor. He was one of Xiao Meyer's sponsors. She had an interesting group where there were materials on all the streamers. He suggested that Chen Yuan join. Chen Yuan knew about this legendary chat room. He was very excited about such an offer. The lone wolf joined the chat room. They already knew of his large donations. One of the participants thought that Chen Yuan was incredibly rich. He had a small business in which he might be interested in. Chen Yuan thought that these rich uncles wanted to test him. He was fine with it. Chen Yuan sent a private message if they need help. One of them had a villa he would like to sell. Chen Yuan asked where it was. It was in Jiang District overlooking the river. Chen Yuan knew this neighborhood very well. It was quite upscale with a bunch of high-rise buildings. This area is quite rich. One villa will cost tens of millions there. Chen Yuan replied that he was just looking for something like this. After all, you have to store junk somewhere. He wanted to look at it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. The villa was very expensive. It was surrounded by columns and had a garden around it. The man who offered to sell the villa was very surprised that this guy actually had money, and it looks like they were wrong. The Dragon Emperor thought that they could only find out in time. Either way, they would make a rich friend. The Dragon Emperor asked to drop the location of Chen Yuan to him. A little later, they would request his biography. It was already the next day. It was morning. The sun was rising from behind the horizon. That man dropped an address to Chen Yuan, Jiang District, House 8. It was where the villa was located. Chen Yuan thought for a second. He had a plan of action. Chen Yuan pondered the question of how much Zhao Yukai's favor would increase if he gave her the villa. The boys arrived at the picturesque place they had been told about earlier. Zhao Yuki didn't understand why they were here. The guys had gotten there by cab. In this place stood a huge, beautiful villa. The former owner and his assistant stood in front of it. He said hello. The man realized that Chen Yuan was the lone wolf and apologized for not sending a car to pick them up. The man was surprised that Chen Yuan looked as ordinary as possible, but the girl behind him was exquisite. The man was already mulling over his plan. It looked like they were going to have quite a hard time agreeing today. The man said that he himself is from Huangwan and has a small business, but recently, due to financial problems, he has been thinking of selling the villa. The man invited the guys to go inside. There were huge glass doors in front of them. The man began to give a tour of the villa. The built-up area was 500 square meters. The area used was 2,000 square meters, design project of eminent designers. All the furniture brought from Italy. The man exclaimed that everything here is feng shui. If not for the money problem, he would like to be buried here. Zhao Yuki couldn't believe that Chen Yuan was going to buy this house. After all, it was worth millions. Chen Yuan noticed that the view was really not bad and asked how much the man wanted for this villa. The man added that he needed money quite urgently, and before the guys there were several other buyers who liked the villa very much. The man said the average price was 60 million. He was willing to give it for less, but wanted to bargain. Chen Yuan sighed. The man thought that it was too expensive for the guy and he wasn't easily fooled. Chen Yuan said that only 60 million and that was not enough, and he agreed. The man was surprised that it was so simple. His assistant was shocked that some people actually think it's cheap. Chen Yuan asked Zhao Yuki what she thought and whether he should buy it. The girl was surprised that the guy was asking her, since she had nothing to do with it. Chen Yuan was going to buy this villa for the girl, giving her a gift. The man was shocked that the guy was giving $60 million worth of gifts. He realized how rich the guy was. Zhao Yuki was shocked. No matter how rich a guy was, there should be some measure in everything. She thought that such an amount of money was too much. The girl thought that perhaps she was some kind of trap, and didn't realize what the guy would then do for such gifts. She had already thought that Chen Yuan would make her a slave or sell her to the casino. The girl was horrified. She had not expected such a turn and did not know how to act. Zhao Yuki felt that this was all not good. The girl said that she couldn't accept such a gift. At this moment, Chen Yuan took the girl's hand and gently asked her to listen to what he had to say. Chen Yuan said that there were certain restrictions from the government, and there were too many properties registered to the guy, so he wants to register the villa to her. Because Chen Yuan hoped to gift Zhao Yuki a house in the future, he was serious. Zhao Yuki was shocked. She didn't expect such sincere words from a guy. However, the girl thought that real estate could only be registered in the name of a spouse. Zhao Yuki had already thought that Chen Yuan felt something similar towards her and wanted to marry her. Chen Yuan asked what kind of relationship she and Zhao Yuki have. He doesn't feel the need to separate her and him. The girl was embarrassed. She blushed and her favor increased. In the end, Zhao Yuki's disposition was 90 points, a little more, and Chen Yuan would win. Chen Yuan believed that his acting ability was getting better day by day, and the Oscar was crying for him. At that moment, someone called out to the man, and he turned around. It was the boss's assistant. She confusedly asked when he would give her the villa. The man felt embarrassed, for he could not afford it. Chen Yuan took out his black card. He swiped the terminal and paid. Chen Yuan left a deposit of 10 million, the rest after signing the documents. It was time for the guys to leave. The boss waved at them and wished them a good trip. The man believed that no matter how rich a guy was, he still took cabs, all to resemble ordinary people. The guys were driving through a quiet town. It was the middle of the day. There weren't many people on the streets. Chen Yuan rejoiced that the girl's disposition had already reached 90 points. He would soon have a personal 7 million. Zhao Yuki sat next to him in the car and fantasized about their relationship. The girl read a lot of love novels, and from her experience, the next step was to declare her love. Zhao Yuki was already looking forward to it. The girl thought that Chen Yuan was so generous. She was sure that he would be a good father. Zhao Yuki wanted to play the wedding ceremony in Milan or in the Alps. She was already thinking about what they would name the baby. The girl fantasized that they would grow old together, and he would love her until his last days. However, the girl's fantasies were interrupted. Chen Yuan reported that they were already in place. The guys pulled up to the university. There were no people in the courtyard at all. Zhao Yuki was surprised that Chen Yuan wasn't coming. He replied that his roommates had invited him to play at an internet cafe. Chen Yuan took a cab to have fun with his friends, leaving the girl behind. Zhao Yuki didn't understand how this could happen, and where was her declaration of love? Chen Yuan took a cab to the internet cafe where his friends were already waiting for him. The guy came in and asked his roommates how they were playing. They said that Chen Yuan had arrived late and they had already drained the game. They lost because Chen Yuan wasn't there, and Zhou was just a nub. The latter was not okay with it. Chen Yuan asked to be given 20 cards, 4 packs of cigarettes, and 4 bottles of red tea. Shu Lalai stood behind the counter. The guy didn't understand what the girl was doing here. He was very surprised to see a girl in a place like this. Shu Lala replied that she owns an internet cafe, and this is one of them. Thanks to the guy, her family's debts have been paid off. Shu Lala asked Chen Yuan to let her treat him as well. And then she thought she would make the guy a regular customer with no restrictions on visiting. An explosion was heard behind the guy's back. His heart nearly jumped out of his chest. Behind that was a huge man with a bat. He was looking for Shu Lala and asked when her father would return their money. The girl said she gave them 50,000 and they came again to demand money. The man said that interest had accrued and now she owed 15 million. Shu Lala was angry after all. This was blackmail and out of the blue. The man grabbed the girl by the arm. He was going to take the girl to his nightclub so that she would appeal to many customers. At this moment, someone had already rushed to Shu Lala's aid. He ran towards her. It was Chen Yuan, and he clobbered the man and told him to get out of here before he got completely angry. Shu Lala was flattered by such a gesture from the guy. She called him a savior. The man was very angry. He was furious and ordered his men to attack him. At this moment, 3 of his men immediately ran straight towards Chen Yuan to attack him. Chen Yuan was prepared for something like this. He was confident in his strength. The guy used holds and kicked one of the men in the face. His friends were shocked that the guy knew a turnaround kick and didn't understand when he learned such a thing. Chen Yuan acted just like the characters in the game. His fighting technique was very similar to them. The guys were shocked that Chen Yuan was so strong, as if they were watching footage from the movie in real life. The men were scared and decided to run away from behind the establishment. The man told them not to get in his face again. Shu Lala hugged Chen Yuan. She said that the guy saved her again. The girl was very scared. Shu Lala's disposition has reached 95 points, in which case the guy gets 530,000 yuan. Chen Yuan was pleased with himself. He was going to see where he could spend the reinforcement points. At this moment, Shu Lala called out to Shu Tang. She was angry at the girl and called her a liar. After all, they agreed that they would unite, and Shu Lala is here seducing Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan awkwardly watched their quarrel. He wanted the system to drain all the dexterity points. Chen Yuan and his new abilities just disappeared while the girls tried to calm down his roommates. The next day came. The sports arena was packed with people, both in the stands and on the field. Chen Yuan realized that he was already done with the 2 girls. Zhao Yuki was left. He needed to find new admirers. At this moment, someone called out to Chen Yuan and asked him to move back a bit, or else he was blocking the path. It was a girl. She said that this sports field belongs to their club, and now there will be a running competition. Chen Yuan noticed that this girl was edgy, but very attractive. She was his new target. Chen Yuan said that he would do it if the girl gave him her WeChat. At this moment, Chen Yuan was stopped by someone. He shouted and asked what the guys were doing there. Her boyfriend stood in front of the girl. He told Chen Yuan to quickly get rid of such thoughts and get the hell out of there. Chen Yuan noticed that this guy looked familiar. He didn't have the best memories with him. In the past, he had beaten up Chen Yuan, called him names, and thought that he was unworthy of Xiao Ruoyu. In general, he had been beaten up a lot in the past. The guy was really pathetic and couldn't stand up to them. Chen Yuan was often stomped by boots. He couldn't do anything about it. This guy asked if Chen Yuan had seen himself in the mirror and told him not to even think about his girlfriend. Chen Yuan was very angry. He wanted to take revenge on this guy. He clenched his hands into a fist. Chen Yuan thought that the world was small. His eyes lit up. He chose a new object. Her name was He Jiying. She was 19 years old. The girl contentedly left with her boyfriend. The girl also had 22 reinforcement points. Chen Yuan found this interesting. He had a new target. The running competition was about to start. The announcer asked all the participants to get ready. One of the participants was a guy named He Jiying. He was confident in his abilities and looked at his girlfriend. He Jiying supported him from the podium. She thought her boyfriend was the best and cheered for him. However, at this point, another man came up behind the track. He was also going to compete and was ready to go. At this point, the announcer fired a gun, signaling the start of the competition. The contestant snapped. That guy ran first and quickly pulled ahead. The guy thought everyone else was just useless insects. He was confident of his victory. However, someone was catching up to him from behind. It was a person running fast and approaching him. At one point, he even overtook this guy. The guy was very surprised and thought it was impossible. The one who overtook him was Chen Yuan. He ran with all his legs using his new abilities. Chen Yuan was extremely fast, with only dust behind him. He was determined to win. He told Li Yan to watch carefully, for now he would lose in a realm where he had no equal. Li Yan was furious. He realized that at this rate he would be overtaken. Li Yan told him not to underestimate him. He removed his imaginary seal and decided to act with his left foot. He put his left foot down and activated his powers. Lightning bolts appeared all around. Li Yan had no idea who Chen Yuan was, but right now he was about to demonstrate who was king and god here. Li Yan looked around. He didn't see Chen Yuan and didn't understand where he had gone. Chen Yuan ran right out from behind him. The guy told Li Yan to work better with his legs instead of his tongue. Li Yang was shocked and didn't realize when the guy had overtaken him in a matter of seconds. Chen Yuan understood that his opponent had dedicated himself to training hard for several years, but the guy had the plushness of the system. The host told all the viewers to look at Chen Yuan because he was literally flying. The guy had developed tremendous speed and ran in just 50 seconds. Chen Yuan reached the finish line. He crossed the red ribbon and was the winner of this race. Everyone was in shock. No one expected such a turn of events. He Jiying was shocked that her boyfriend lost. She thought he was unrivaled. The host announced that they were all watching the birth of a new champion, as Chen Yuan had broken all previous records. Two guys came up to Chen Yuan. They were impressed by his abilities and offered him to join the track and field team. Li Yang was angry and upset with his defeat. He felt that the coach should say this to him. Chen Yuan apologized and said that he wasn't interested. He didn't want to develop in running. He Jiying hadn't even noticed before how manly Chen Yuan was. She looked at him with admiration. Li Yan asked his girlfriend what she was thinking about. He took the bottle from her hands. The girl replied that it was nothing. She was just a little worried about Li Yan. At that time, He Xiying's disposition was growing and growing. Chen Yuan's plan was moving into action. The next day came. The sun illuminated the women's dormitory building. Wu Xiaofei asked where Zhao Yuki was going. The girl replied that Chen Yuan had given her a house. Wu Xiaofei was just shocked to hear this. Zhao Yukai added that the guys are going to watch it together today. Zhao Yukai added that the guy bought it for 60 million and needs to scour the prices in the area so the old man doesn't rip her off. Wu Xiaofei told her friend to stop boasting. Now they are going to watch the news about Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan was dubbed the chief catcher of Huan University, and an article was even written about him. Wu Xiaofei was surprised that the guy's name was like that. She showed this article to her friend. This news was also seen by Chen Yuan. He didn't understand what kind of joke this was, after all. He is just a boy who likes to spend money. It seems that recently, for this reason, Chen Yuan has been popular for this reason. Someone doesn't like it. He wondered who. Somewhere in the men's dormitory, screams were heard. They didn't understand how come the news was published. It was the three guys. They published the news. It ranked first in the rankings, and thought that now Chen Yuan's popularity was tainted. Another guy came up behind them. He didn't understand what they were doing here with the curtains closed in the middle of a white day. They didn't hear Li Yan come in at all. They explained that Chen Yuan had been acting very arrogant lately. They wanted to teach him a little lesson. Li Yang recognized Chen Yuan, for he had entered without an entry and won the competition. Li Yan recognized him. It was the exact guy he had beaten in the past. Li Yan smirked slyly. He too wanted to teach his opponent a lesson. Li Yan explained that he knows him, and they were in high school together. And he's been a big suck-up since they were kids. The guys were going to write down all the news about Chen Yuan. They wanted to hear about the sucking up and molesting girls. Li Yang was angry that Chen Yuan had won the competition and was liked by the coaches. He was going to do everything he could to make sure that not a wet spot was left of his reputation. In the news, it was written that Chen Yuan has a relationship with a huge number of girls, objectifies girls, and uses physical force against them. It was written that people who had dealt with him confirmed that they had been persecuted by Chen Yuan and had been forced into a relationship with him under duress. They also had information that during the high school years, Chen Yuan had a reputation for being a sleaze. He would chase after 100 girls and guys. This news spread all over the university. The guys were shocked by it and didn't realize if it was true. Meanwhile, the news was also talked about in the office of the university director. The principal pounded the desk and nearly smashed the phone. The principal thought that he wasn't going to let something like this happen at his university. The man was going to do a personal investigation and find out everything. At this moment, someone was telling a made-up story about Chen Yuan. She thought that he was a special person and hated it the most when girls suffered. She told me that the guy comes from a wealthy family, but is a fair and unselfish person who will always come to the rescue. This was all told by Zhao Yuki. According to her, every day with the nightfall, he turns into a hero and punishes the villains. She called the guy powerful and mysterious, protecting this city full of desire and sin. In general, Zhao Yuki thought Chen Yuan was a true hero. She was sitting in a chair in the middle of the room. The girl was spoken to by the guards. They thought she was exaggerating too much and didn't understand what grounds she had for such thoughts. Zhao Yuki explained that it was her female intuition. The girl was confident towards Chen Yuan. The principal asked if her words could be believed. They had a biography on her. They thought she had no reason to lie, and Chen Yuan was probably a normal guy. The principal decided to question the other classmates. He didn't believe in Chen Yuan's innocence at all. The guards were just about to head to the university to conduct their investigation. They approached Shu Tong and said that they needed to ask a couple of questions regarding Chen Yuan and invited her to come with them. The guards, along with the girl, went to a more private place to talk things over. Shu Tong cried and said that Chen Yuan is a good man. They just don't fit together. The girl loves money and Chen Yuan didn't choose her. The girl cried and assured the police officers that Chen Yuan was really a good person, and her heart was breaking. The guard realized that the girl likes Chen Yuan, but he rejected her. But Shu Tong is still sure that he is a good man. Shu Tong stated that she doesn't deserve him. After all, he treated her so well and never did anything bad to her once. The guy just doesn't love her anymore. The principal understood. He got down and left the room with the girl. The university director went outside. He lit a cigarette and decided to think things over. He thought those people on the forum were just trying to slander a good man, and the guy was really a good man. The dean saw Xiao Lala walking down the street with her father. They were heading to the university. The dean said hello and introduced himself to the man. He asked what brought him to the university today. Shu Lala said that they came to support Chen Yuan. The girl unfurled a banner that had words of support for Chen Yuan on it. The dean of the university was shocked that it was about Chen Yuan again, and he was being supported again. The dean of the university said goodbye to the girl and her father. He couldn't believe that he was wrong about Chen Yuan after all. The dean of the university felt it was necessary to take another look at the forum and see what was being written about him. There were already articles published there in support of Chen Yuan. One of them wrote that if Chen Yuan is a catcher, then we should wrap one up for her. A video of the running competition was published on the internet as Chen Yuan took first place. There was also a video in which the girls were crazy about Chen Yuan and happily served him water after the competition. All the girls wrote supportive comments to Chen Yuan. They were all in love with him and thought that he was just jealous. The dean of the university was shocked that all the commentators were girls, and it seems Chen Yuan is the idol of all the girls. The dean of the university began to reminisce about the old days. He too had studied at this university. This situation reminded him of something. He himself had been the best among the best when he was younger. He had girls running after him in droves. They loved his jokes, and the other guys were furious that he was the center of attention. The dean of the university thought that if someone was too perfect, they should be willing to get paid for it. His desk was constantly being painted over. This news was also seen by the principal. He was also shocked and did not expect it. The dean of the university even cried. He was very touched by the guy's story. He understood him. The dean of the university promised Chen Yuan to definitely get to the truth. He was not going to tolerate this kind of humiliation and slander. The next day came. The sun was shining brightly high in the sky. It was beautiful weather. There was an award ceremony for the winners of the competition. The whole university gathered to watch it. The dean of the university announced that rumors about Chen Yuan had recently spread. He had conducted his own investigation and found out that it was all just a brazen slander. The dean of the university said that they were here today to restore Chen Yuan's good name after all. He was just a role model. The man thought Chen Yuan was the real pride of their university and a very good-natured person. He even cried. The man suggested that everyone should learn from Chen Yuan so that they could all become useful to society. All the students clapped happily. They were in agreement with the dean. They really liked the guy. Chen Yuan didn't understand what was going on and why he was even being given a certificate of honor. After all, he hadn't done anything wrong. Li Yan was very angry after all. These forum posts were supposed to destroy the guy. It turned out to be the opposite. Li Yang thought that the dean and teachers had gone blind. He couldn't believe what was happening because he should be in Chen Yuan's place. Next to him, He Jiying clapped happily. She too admired Chen Yuan, thought that he was very good. At this moment, He Jiying's disposition increased by 10 points. Chen Yuan was surprised. The girl clapped happily and looked at Chen Yuan from the audience with embarrassment. The event had already come to an end and it was time for the kids to leave. All the students got up from their seats, shouts were heard, someone demanded an explanation. It was Li Yan. He had seen everything as Jiying cheerfully applauded Chen Yuan and almost squeaked there. She accused him of having a jealousy attack. The girl thought that Chen Yuan was just a student, but had done so many good things. Yet he didn't care about wealth and fame. The girl drew this conclusion because of his refusal to join the track and field club earlier. She added that when Chen Yuan won, he could have stood there looking proud and accepting congratulations. But he behaved in a humanly correct manner. Li Yan was angry. He grabbed the girl's hand and told her to stop saying things. Jiying was in pain. She screamed and asked her boyfriend to let her go. Li Yan thought that Chen Yuan was just a good-for-nothing toady. He believed that just because the coach liked him didn't mean anything. At this moment, the birds were carelessly soaring in the sky. The nature was picturesque. Chen Yuan called someone. He said he was at the university and said he was trying to keep a low profile and asked him not to take an expensive car. At the same moment, a car drove up to Chen Yuan. It was very expensive and prestigious. It was the same male villa owner. Chen Yuan pretended to be dissatisfied with this choice of car. The man opened the car door for Chen Yuan and asked him to take care of his head. Li Yang was shocked when he saw this picture. The car with Chen Yuan drove off, leaving the couple alone with their problems. Ji Ying said that it was better for them to break up since Li Yan didn't trust her. The guy didn't want that. Li Yan was stunned. There was no face on him. He couldn't believe that Chen Yuan was actually rich. Meanwhile, Chen Yuan and the man went to the bank to formalize their deal for the villa. Chen Yuan took out his card and swiped it across the terminal. He was going to transfer the remaining amount. The man's bank account was replenished by 50 million yuan. He replied that Chen Yuan was a pleasure to do business with. Chen Yuan said that now they had to say goodbye. He had to go to the university. The man was going to let him down, but the guy refused. The house was bought. Now the guy had to wait for Zhao Yuki. A little more favor, and he would get some points. Chen Yuan began to think about what else he should give her to increase her favor. At that moment, the guy got a message on his phone. It was that secret chat. It was written there that Chen Yuan is simply not probable, and helped with financial matters by buying a villa, then gave it to his girlfriend. Chen Yuan replied that he was always happy to help. The guy was very pleased with himself. In the chat room, the status immediately went up. Everyone bowed down to him and admired the guy. Another chat participant asked if Chen Yuan needs a car. He has his own channels. Chen Yuan realized that one could give a girl a car as a gift, then she would definitely be happy about it. Some time passed. Chen Yuan went to the car dealership to look for another gift for the girl. He was met by Zhang Haochin. His family owns a small business and he himself owns a car dealership. He was happy to meet Chen Yuan. Zhang Haochin held out his business card to the guy. Chen Yuan carefully began to look at it. Chen Yuan knew very well about Zhang Corporation. They had a huge office in the center of the city. They had their own automobile manufacturing facility, and the family was very wealthy. They also owned several sea vessels for transportation. It was one of the largest companies in the city. Zhang Haotian was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Chen Yuan remarked that Zhang Haotian is so young and already running a car dealership. He is indeed a promising young man. The man replied that it was not worth the courtesy and invited Chen Yuan to go inside. Chen Yuan's age also impressed him. Zhang Haotian noticed that Chen Yuan was very young and charismatic. His assistants were shocked that the director was personally accompanying this guest. Zhang Haochen said he didn't feel like bragging, but in this city, his car dealership has the best premium cars. The man said that Chen Yuan could find any car here. The guy replied that he wanted a Bugatti Chiron. Zhang Haotian was just shocked at this kind of request from the guy. He didn't expect Chen Yuan to say such a thing. It was an incredibly expensive car that only a few people owned. Zhang Haotian called Chen Yuan a joker, because this is the most luxurious limited edition car. Chen Yuan turned around. He realized that this car dealership did not have such a car. Chen Yuan asked if they had Lamborghini Veneno or Pagani Zonda. They were all expensive cars. Zhang Haochen thought that Chen Yuan had come here to bully him. He said to be able to buy a car worth up to $8 million at their showroom. Chen Yuan noticed that the salon didn't have anything dealt with, and it seemed like they didn't have a particularly well-developed business. Zhang Haotian didn't believe that Chen Yuan could afford such expensive machines. It was time to let his treasures go to waste. Zhang Haotian walked over to one of the cars that was covered with a sheet. The man said that the cars named by Chen Yuan were indeed not here, but he was going to show the most expensive car in their showroom. Zhang Haotian dramatically threw the cape off the car. It was LaFerrari. The volume of its engine is 6 and 3 liters. The engine power is 800 horsepower. Acceleration from a place to 100 kilometers per hour of different generations is 3 seconds. This car only cost a little over 22 million yuan. The car really looked beautiful. Zhang Haochen asked what Chen Yuan thought about it and whether he liked the car. The guy thought that a Ferrari was not very expensive but not cheap either, and would go as a gift for Zhao Yuki. The guy said it is a small amount. He appreciates Zhang Haochen's efforts. He will pay by card. Zhang Haochen was shocked that the guy had agreed to buy such an expensive car. Chen Yuan held out a card to him. At this moment, someone called Chen Yuan and the phone was in his pocket. Chen Yuan took out his phone. Liu Wenjui was calling him. Chen Yuan didn't understand what he needed. The guy yelled into the phone that his girlfriend cheated on him. The guy seemed really upset. It happened on Liu Wenjui's birthday. His girlfriend Liao Jia had gone to her friend's house to get her nails done, and she was still out at night. She didn't have an umbrella with her, and the guy was very worried about her. He went looking for the girl. As a result, Liu Wenjui witnessed a scene that broke his heart. His girlfriend was making out with another guy sitting on the hood of his car. At that moment, an image clearly appeared in Liu Wenjui's mind. 2 people kissing in the rain. But the drenched rat at that moment is him. The guy was crying and drinking away his grief. He was in a lot of pain, because they had been in a relationship for 3 years, and he was going to introduce her to his parents. Chen Yuan said that the guy had had enough to drink, as this was already the 8th bottle. Liu Wenjui didn't realize what he had done wrong. He thought that maybe it wasn't too late to get her back. The guy cried. Chen Yuan grabbed his friend. He told him to come to his senses. After all, it was his girlfriend's fault, not his. Where is his pride? Liu Wenjui understood this perfectly well, however. There was nothing he could do about it. The guy fell on his knees in front of Chen Yuan. He was very depressed and didn't know how to go on with his life. Chen Yuan asked if his friend couldn't accept it, if he thought it was a mistake and she was actually not a bad person. Chen Yuan said that it looks like he should teach Liu Wenjui a lesson. He picked up his phone and started to call someone. Liu Wenjui didn't understand who Chen Yuan was calling. Chen Yuan asked his friend's friend to just trust him. He was going to arrange everything. Chen Yuan was going to make Liao Jia come crawling to Liu Wenjui on his knees. Chen Yuan called Huotian. He wanted to take a couple of cars, not very expensive, about a few million. He asked to contact reliable people who could be driving tomorrow. Zhang Haoqian said that he would arrange everything, and everything would be at its best tomorrow. Liu Wenjui was surprised by this behavior of Chen Yuan. He didn't recognize his friend and thought he had two personalities. Chen Yuan called following Xiao Lilai. He asked if the girl had a moment after all he wanted to meet. Liu Wenjui noticed that Chen Yuan's eyes had been replaced in an instant, so it seemed like Lala had agreed to meet. It was already getting to be evening. The lights were burning brightly, and there were signs everywhere. Xiao Lala ran to Chen Yuan as soon as they met. She hugged the guy tightly and said that she missed him a lot. Liu Wenjui was shocked that Chen Yuan only called, and such a girl immediately flew here. He didn't recognize his friend. Chen Yuan introduced Xiao Lele to Liu Wenjui. The guy felt awkward. He said hello. Xiao Lala asked, calling Chen Yuan to her just to meet her friend. Xiao Lala felt that she liked Chen Yuan since he was introducing her to his good close friend. Chen Yuan replied that he had a matter for the girl. He wanted her to help them tomorrow. There was a sports car speeding down the highway at high speed. Behind her was Liao Jia with her new boyfriend. He was going to give the girl a new purse for her birthday. She still felt guilty after all. They had been in a relationship for so long. At that moment, a red sports car started pulling up behind their car. She drifted and got right in front of the guy's car. Dust kicked up all around. Ma didn't understand who drove like that. He was really pissed off that it happened. Ma was about to overtake the red car, turned the wheel, and headed that way. The guy leaned out of his car window, showed the driver of the sports car an obscene gesture, and thought he had bought a license. However, the expression on the guy's face changed in an instant as soon as he saw who was getting out of the car. A girl stepped out of the car. She had perfect curves, glowing skin, and incomparable headlights. This girl was Xiao Lala. She was wearing a tight red dress. Ma's nose was bleeding. However, she wasn't the only one right here. A man's foot showed up behind her. It was Liu Wenjui. He was wearing an expensive fur coat, and he was wearing a bunch of expensive jewelry. Lajia didn't expect to see her ex-boyfriend in such an expensive car. She was just shocked. Lala pressed herself against the guy. She said she was really scared after all. Wanji just gave her this car and she almost scratched it. Ma didn't understand what had happened to Liu Wanzi and why he looked like this. Had he really been hiding the fact that he had rich parents all this time? Lia Jia looked at the couple with anger and envy. She was going to take revenge. The girl went up to Liu Wenzi and asked what kind of performance it was. The guy replied that no one needed her and told Lala to get in the car. Lajia had known him for many years and understood how things were in his family. She thought that today's performance was just nasty. Zhang Haoqian along with Chen Yuan were following along. They noticed that this woman had figured them out, however. The most interesting thing was ahead of them. At this point, many more sports cars came along the track toward the guys, and they were speeding along. It was a whole convoy of cars. They were approaching one by one. At some point, all these cars surrounded the guys. Lajia didn't realize what was going on here. A man got out of the car and noticed that Wenji was already here. It was him he was looking for. The man said hello to Ma and asked if he knew who he was. The man hugged Lia Jia and Ma and asked what this guy had told the girl, that his family owned coal deposits and he had studied in America. The man explained that Ma Kai is a common liar who pretends to be a rich man to get pretty girls into bed. Bai thought his methods were as old as the world. He never thought anyone would fall for them at all. Bai told Lia Jia to look at herself. He thought she was worthy of even the poorest person. Lia Jia was furious. She was going to kill Ma Kai for deceiving her. She furiously ran after the guy. Wanji watched this scene with sadness. He had succeeded, however. It did not bring him joy. Wanji told Xiao Lala that it was time for them to go. The girl agreed with him. However, the guy was suddenly becoming. Xiao Lala didn't understand why the guy wasn't going further. Lia Jia clung to the guy's leg. She cried and begged him not to leave her, after all. She was not vain at all, just from a poor family. Wanzi pulled his leg out and told him not to touch it. He wasn't going to have anything to do with her. The guy said that as of today they cut off any communication. He told me not to text or call him. Lajia was still lying on her finger as well. She was speedily looking at her ex-boyfriend walking away in the distance. All the guys were happy about their victory. They thought that Brother Bai was staying away for words. At this time, Mo Kai wanted to quietly take off. However, his path was blocked by Chen Yuan. He asked where the guy was going and if he wanted to bail. Chen Yuan said that just like that, the guy would not leave here. He thought that 100 slaps would be enough. The boys gathered in a circle near Mo Kai and were about to bring their punishment into action. After a while, the guys arrived at the nightclub. It was very lively. Everyone was dancing to the songs. The guys decided to celebrate their victory. They drank to their heart's content and thought that they were not likely to be lucky enough to meet Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan wanted to just say a big thank you to all of them for helping him. However, everyone was happy to help him. Bai had indeed heard about Chen Yuan's activities on the Shark streaming platform and would like to ask for a little help from Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan was surprised. He was curious to hear what the guy's request would be about. His friends already knew what the conversation was going to be about. They looked at each other with a bored look. Bai explained that there is one streamer that he really wanted to support, but the budget will not allow it this month. Chen Yuan realized that history was repeating itself. He thought that these rich kids were looking high on everyone. Hyoshin shouted that Xiao Bai had lost his mind after all. Why would Chen Yuan support some streamer? Chen Yuan clinked his glass to the table. It looked like he was in a bad mood. All the guys were shocked. They noticed that Chen Yuan was angry and were waiting to see what would happen next. Chen Yuan was willing to help Xiao Bai. It would be as a gift to him. He unlocked the phone. Chen Yuan held out his phone to him. He was about to retire to the restroom and allowed him to play with his phone. Chen Yuan said that Xiao Bai may not save money. The guys were very surprised at such actions. Xiao Bai was shocked that he could spend as much as he wanted. Did Chen Yuan really trust him that much? Xiao Bai felt that in such a case, he could really not trifle and chose the missile. Chen Yuan went to the restroom. He thought it would be worse if they made him pay the bill. And he wasn't worried about that sort of thing at all. The system would pay for it anyway. Chen Yuan came to the restroom. He stood next to a large man who was humming something to himself with a tray. The man was very surprised when he looked at Chen Yuan. He didn't expect to see such a thing. Chen Yuan was like a huge dragon, and the man associated himself with a small bird. The man showed his thumb to Chen Yuan. The guy didn't even understand what was wrong with this man. Chen Yuan had already returned, and he was seen by the guys shouting that 2,000 more were needed. Then they started shouting 4,000, then 6,000. Xiao Bai held Chen Yuan's phone in his hands. Chen Yuan shushed the guys. He asked why they were all here gathered in a circle. Xiao Bai was already crying. He was glad that Chen Yuan had finally returned and asked him to save him. Chen Yuan noticed that he had been gone for quite a long time. The guys had only managed to spend 20 million. The guys didn't understand who Chen Yuan was, that his family was richer than the Underworld Bank. Xiao Bai explained that he spent at most a few tens of thousands at a time, as he would think of how many sports cars he could buy with that money. Chen Yuan looked at his phone. He reckoned that 20 million didn't sound like much. He should make it to 60. Xiao Bai said that was enough. This streamer really isn't worth that much, and Chen Yuan is incredible. Hyoshin asked if Xiao Bai would recognize the failure because people like Chen Yuan should be respected, not put them through all sorts of tests. Xiao Bai asked Chen Yuan to forgive him. He had learned a good lesson today and was at the guy's disposal from now on. The guys decided to have another drink. They told the waiter to carry 3 more bottles. All the clubgoers started discussing the situation. They noticed that it was a rich kid's hangout and noticed that it was the lone wolf. The guys were drinking and discussing something. At this time, a notification came on Chen Yuan's phone. It was from Xiao Mir. Chen Yuan looked at it with surprise. Chen Yuan told the guys to rest. After all, he had some urgent business to attend to. They would see next time. One of the guys noticed that Chen Yuan ran away quickly. Was he really afraid that they would pin the bill on him? Hyoshin was sure that was not the case. Xiao Mir wrote that she was back in the city and couldn't wait to meet Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan made an appointment for her tomorrow. The girl was very happy. Chen Yuan walked down the street. Chen Yuan felt that after waiting like this, it was time to choke on the points of favor. Meanwhile, at the airport, the plane was just landing and passengers were getting ready to get off. Xiao Mir tried to calm herself down. After all, this was just a normal date. A little bit of feminine charm, and she would be fine. The girl thought this rich kid should be her goldfish. Xiao Mir had experience in catching fish. She was confident in her abilities. Meanwhile, Shu Tong didn't leave Chen Yuan alone. She was texting him a huge message about her dreams and their perfect future. Chen Yuan was walking down the street. Someone asked him why he was constantly staring at his phone. Chen Yuan deleted the dialogue with Shu Tong. The girl was no longer interesting to him. Chen Yuan was on a date with Xiao Mir. The guy replied that there was someone who would not settle down. Chen Yuan smiled and asked what the girl had just talked him into. The girl remembered her boss yelling at her that she had to do anything, even jump into bed with him, but he had to be on the hook for her. Xiao Mir was surprised that there was such a pretty girl across from Chen Yuan, and he let himself get distracted. Xiao Mir said that Chen Yuan is so young but already so rich, he must be in a high position. Notification came in that her favorability scores are too high. She can't be linked. All the guy's money was wasted. Chen Yuan felt that he would have to lower the girl's level of favor first. Chen Yuan said that Xiaomir is wrong and he is just a bum with no education and does not hold a high position. Xiaomir was surprised that the guy didn't have a job. She asked if he had his own business. Otherwise, where would such funds come from? Chen Yuan explained that he was just spending his father's money and now the firm has shut down and they don't owe the bank several million. Chen Yuan explained that he actually met with the girl to ask her to return some of the money he had donated to her. The girl didn't understand why Chen Yuan was acting like he had money. Did he just want to show off to her on the streamer? Xiaomir thought she was an idiot just wasting her time here with Chen Yuan. She was about to leave. The girl called Lan. She said she was near the airport and asked her to get her out of here as soon as possible. Chen Yuan had met women who were greedy for money before, but he had yet to find such a manipulative woman. Some time passed. The planes were all taking off from the airport and heading into the sky. Lan walked into the cafe. He asked who dared to touch his woman in broad daylight. Xiaomir saw Lan. She was excited and was about to approach him. The girl said she was so scared and Chen Yuan grabbed her hand. To the girl's surprise, Lan walked past her and rushed onward. Xiaomir was shocked. Lan was familiar with Chen Yuan. He ran to him and shook the guy's hand and asked him what he was doing here. Chen Yuan didn't remember the guy. Lan explained that they had been drinking together with Xiao Bai yesterday. Chen Yuan remembered Xiao Lan. He shook his hand. He regretted that they hadn't been able to have a couple more drinks yesterday. Xiaomir didn't understand why Lan was acting like this in front of Chen Yuan. After all, he is one of Seoul's top young people, and his family owns industrial businesses throughout the city. Xiaomir was upset. She turned to Xiao Lan and was going to tell him everything. Lan asked the girl to be quiet. After all, Chen Yuan is a good friend of his close friend. Xiao Lan explained that Chen Yuan had so much money, more than all of them combined. Xiaomir couldn't believe it. Xiaomir realized that Chen Yuan was testing her to see how sincere she was, and she might just let this opportunity slip away like this. Xiaomir felt that she needed to rehabilitate herself at all costs. Xiaomir apologized for her loudness. She admitted her wrong. At this moment, the girl contacted the system. The guy achieved his goal. He looked at the girl with a cold look. Chen Yuan said that the girl was young and therefore very stupid, and it was just a joke. Xiaomir thanked Chen Yuan. She said that he was the best. Her favor increased. Chen Yuan believed that there was a reason why the girl was a streamer, and as long as the subscriber had money, favor would pour down in rivers. Xiaoling was angry that Chen Yuan had blown 10 million on a girl, and she had called him to such an eatery. Xiaoling believed that their meeting was not coincidental. He was willing to give them a treat. Chen Yuan couldn't refuse. Xiaoling opened the doors of Chen Yuan's car and asked him to take a seat. Xiaomir was also going to go with them. The guys went to a more upscale location to continue their conversation. Xiaomir discreetly motioned to Chen Yuan while he was looking at his phone. Xiaomir crouched down and hugged Chen Yuan. She was going to use her charms. Xiaomir asked if Chen Yuan was no longer angry with her, because she really made a mistake and was very sorry. Chen Yuan said it's okay. She noticed the guy entering the shark. Chen Yuan opened some girl's stream. He was going to give her a gift. Xiaomir became angry. She didn't expect him to do that. Chen Yuan started giving one gift after another, spending a lot of money on it. Xiaomir was shocked by it. At this moment, hundreds of missiles began to fly towards the girl. It was worth a lot. Chen Yuan sent more and more gifts to prove his status. The streamer was shocked that 3,000 missiles were sent to her. She didn't know how to react. From such a defeat, the girl fainted. She was in shock. The girl had never seen so much money in her life. The workers ran up to her and rushed to call an ambulance. Xiaomir was very surprised. This was the first time she had seen something like this. The way Chen Yuan was poking at the screen so quickly. Xiaomir realized that if she hadn't messed up, that 30 million would have been hers. The girl realized that Chen Yuan was just mocking her and wanted to annoy her. However, Xiaomir found Chen Yuan very attractive when he spent money. Her disposition increased. The girl began to imagine his fingers tapping not on the phone screen but sliding down her body. Chen Yuan didn't understand what was wrong with this girl. After all, her favor grows when a guy spends money on others. Xiaomir was already head over heels in love with Chen Yuan. Hearts appeared in her eyes. Xiaoling said they are already there. They have arrived at the best private restaurant in Seoul, the Black Pearl. Only certain circles can eat here, and therefore everything is confidential. 3 features make this restaurant the best. Chen Yuan assumed unremarkable dishes, picturesque scenery, and didn't know what the third one was. Xiaolin noticed that Chen Yuan was quite cautious. He guessed correctly about the first 2. There was a girl in a beautiful dress sitting in a gazebo near the restaurant. The third feature was her, the daughter of the boss, Zhao Yuki. Zhao Yuki recognized Chen Yuan. She was surprised that he had come to her restaurant. Chen Yuan didn't expect to see her. He was very surprised and didn't know how to act. At this time, the girl noticed something, her gaze fixed on the guy. Xiaomir was walking under the arm with Chen Yuan at this time. The chairman saw this. The girl got very angry. Her disposition dropped and she broke her musical instrument. Zhao Yuki unexpectedly cried. She was very hurt that the guy had done this to her. Chen Yuan had only a little bit left and could get reinforcement points. The guy wondered if he was going to screw up at the critical moment. He rushed after the girl. The place was really picturesque, with fruit trees growing all around. Chen Yuan pinned Zhao Yuki against the wall. At this time, the girl was crying bitterly. Zhao Yuki thought that Chen Yuan was terrible and that he was just playing around with her feelings. Chen Yuan realized that if this continued like this, he would lose all his disposition points. He needed to do something about it. Chen Yuan asked if Zhao Yuki knew about the very first rich man. The girl yelled that now they were talking about the guy cheating. They were talking about some movie. The guy clarified that the rich guy was him. Zhao Yuki was very surprised. At this time, Chen Yuan lit a cigarette. Chen Yuan started to tell that he was not from an ordinary family. Asked if the girl wondered why he was content with an ordinary life. The guy explained that his family has an unspoken rule that an heir upon reaching the age of 18 must spend 1 billion yuan in a month. So the guy diligently spends money. He invests in various projects. Chen Yuan is invested in investments, philanthropy, and more. Chen Yuan also supports various environmental initiatives such as the Polar Glacier Migration Plan. Chen Yuan explained that this girl was a streamer that he had paid for, all just because he got to play the game. Chen Yuan said that no one except Zhao Yuki is aware of it. He did not expect the girl to understand him. But this secret has been weighing on him for a long time. The guy played out a tragic scene. He said he was just tired. Zhao Yuki thought she was stupid after all. The guy was working so hard for the sake of becoming the heir, and she doubted him. Zhao Yuki realized that she was wrong. She was already ready to forgive Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan at this time was walking away from the girl with a tragic look. Zhao Yuki rushed into Chen Yuan's arms. She didn't want to part with him and asked him not to leave. Zhao Yuki wrapped her arms around Chen Yuan's waist. Chen Yuan put his hand on hers. Zhao Yuki was glad that Chen Yuan had opened up to her about such a sensitive matter like family matters. The girl felt that Chen Yuan really loved her. Her disposition increased. It was already time for the guys to head back. There was a big, beautiful lake near the restaurant. Zhao Yuki apologized to her guests. She said that she was a bit out of it and Chen Yuan's friends are her friends. Xiaolin thought it was very cool that it was only 5 minutes and the girl had such a change of mood. Xiaomir got angry. She didn't understand the girl's worth. She was still going to see who got him. Xiaomir asked the lone wolf to introduce this girl to her and tell her who she was to him. Zhao Yuki was surprised by this treatment of the girl. It made her laugh. Zhao Yuki realized that Chen Yuan didn't even give Xiaomir his real name and that she was calling him brother. Zhao Yuki looked like a huge ferocious hot bird that was ready to tear everyone around it. Xiaoling was surprised by the girl's strength. He thought that this was not just an unequal fight, but a real beating. Zhao Yuki was indeed very fierce. There was no way she was going to lose to a competitor. Xiaomir also got angry. She was hurt by such a statement from the girl. At that moment, someone started eating. There was a plate with all sorts of goodies on the table. Chen Yuan decided to start eating. After all, he was already hungry. The guy picked up some chopsticks. Xiaomir stared intently at her competitor. She wasn't going to lose to her and thought she was better than her. Zhao Yuki also kept her eyes on the streamer. She was determined to win. The next moment, Xiaomir proudly turned away, showing her displeasure to everyone around her. Zhao Yuki, following her example, also turned away from her rival. The girls snorted. Xiaolin was surprised that the girls wouldn't even fight. He expected to see a serious showdown. After all, Xiaomir is one of the most popular shark streamers, the very real storm of walleyes. And Zhao Yuki is a famous beauty of the city with a high origin. Xiaolin thought that Chen Yuan must have some special technique to charm girls. Xiaolin thought he was just some kind of demon tempter that all the girls would fall for. Previously, the guy was solely impressed by Chen Yuan's wealth, but now he had become his spiritual idol. Xiaolin really wanted to be just like Chen Yuan. At this time, Chen Yuan didn't understand what was happening to him. Some time passed, the guys returned to the university courtyard. Chen Yuan realized that the restaurant wasn't cheap, but it was good that he didn't have to pay. Chen Yuan remembered about the money. He was going to look at his progress on girls. Chen Yuan went to the system. He activated it and was about to look at the data. The assignment with Shu Tong had been successfully completed. The guy had already gotten paid for it. It was the same story with Lala. Those two girls had already become his idols. What about Zhao Yuki? Her disposition was 91. After completing it, a reward of 25 reinforcement points awaited him. Xiaomir's disposition reached 92, the reward for completing 25 points of reinforcement. The guy realized that the disposition level of these two was pretty high. Must be the prize would be enormous. Chen Yuan noticed that another girl had appeared in the system. He didn't realize when it happened. It was He Jiwang, Li Cheng's girlfriend. Her disposition was 76. Her disposition used to be lower. It's been a few days, and now he's seeing that number. At that moment, two men ran past the guy. They heard someone downstairs professing their love, probably a knight on a white horse. Chen Yuan found it very interesting. He wanted to see it himself as well. Near the women's dormitory, someone was singing a sad song and apologizing. A crowd of gawkers gathered around. Was it Ian? He sang that he couldn't do it without her, playing guitar in parallel. Li Yan felt that he shouldn't have been so cold to his girlfriend. He asked her to remember how good they were together to give it another chance. Hei Jiwang glared at her ex-boyfriend's attempts. She wasn't going to forgive him. Chen Yuan also came to look at this whole scene. He thought it all looked very awkward and like a cheap play. He Jiwang was very excited when she saw Chen Yuan. She spotted him in the crowd. He Jiwang tossed Li Yan's bouquet aside with one hand. The girl happily ran towards Chen Yuan. Li Yan was shocked by this. The guy was crying sitting on the ground. He didn't understand where his girlfriend was running away to and asked her to come back. He Jiwang ran to Chen Yuan. She knew his name and was glad that she had met the guy again. The girl considered herself incredibly lucky today. She pulled out her phone. Ha Jiwang asked to add her on WeChat. The girl opened her code and asked to add a contact. Everyone around her didn't understand what was going on here and whether the girl had another man. It was like her love was pure and sincere. Li Yan didn't understand what was wrong with Chen Yuan. He wasn't going to put up with this and wanted to take revenge on the guy. Chen Yuan looked at Li Yan. He was in no hurry to give his contact to the girl. Chen Yuan knew that right now Li Yan thought that they would never get over what had happened and thought that Jiwang had 7 Fridays in a week. Li Yan didn't understand what all this meant and whether Chen Yuan was mocking him. Chen Yuan said that he actually even envied Li Yan to some extent. He is handsome and perfectly physically built. He has easily won the heart of women and truly deserves their attention. But once Li Yan realized that he was no longer the center of attention, he began to get lost. Winning was what mattered to the guy, and he stubbornly ignored the feeling of his other half. All this time, Hei Jiwang faithfully waited for his messages on nights while the guy ran and practiced. The guy himself pushed her away. The girl cried nights because she didn't get a response from the guy. And now Li Yan is making such a pathetic appearance again. Chen Yuan asked if he thought he was just being ridiculous. Li Yan clutched his head. He recognized Chen Yuan's rightness, that he had brought this upon himself. Everyone around began to discuss this situation. Some thought that the guy himself was to blame, because when they were together, he did not pay her proper attention. He Jiwang was flattered by such words from Chen Yuan. Something changed inside the girl. The girl realized that Chen Yuan understood her. Better than everyone else, her disposition increased. Wu Xiaofei was also in that crowd. She noticed Chen Yuan and didn't understand their relationship. The girl was angry. She felt she needed to go back to the dormitory and tell Cheeky everything. The girl did so. Almost everyone had already gone to bed. There was a light burning in one window. Wu Xiaofei tore into the room. She claimed that Chen Yuan was cheating on Zhao Yuki. Zhao Yuki asked her friend to stop, because Chen Yuan was incapable of such a thing. She told her what she saw downstairs. Zhao Yuki believed that Chen Yuan could not control other people's feelings, and words meant nothing. Xiaofei was asked how the girl explained it. After all, the guy was spending fabulous money on other girls. Zhao Yuki remembered that this was what the guy had told her about. He had actually spent much more than this amount. The girl explained that their relationship is based on trust and that he trusts her, and she trusts him. Xiaofei has never had a partner, so it's probably hard for her to understand. Wu Xiaofei thought her friend was very kind, but at the same time very stupid. She didn't understand how Chen Yuan could do this. At this time, Chen Yuan sat in traditional Chinese attire and called out sweetly. His friend told him to concentrate. After all, he couldn't sleep. Chen Yuan wasn't going to come at all. There were girls sitting opposite. They liked the look of sleepily Chen Yuan. They were head over heels in love with the guy. These girls said they wouldn't come if Chen Yuan wasn't there. And the guys really wanted to sit with them. There was also Shu Tung. She played in the scene where she left her lover and ran away with the rich man's son. They tried to calm her down. Shu Tung recognized that Chen Yuan was here and followed them. The guys didn't understand what Chen Yuan had done to her. She had recently been to the doctor. Chen Yuan thought that he had really overdone it. He coldly looked at the girl. Shu Tung really did hurt him, but after what happened, it seems to have really repented. Chen Yuan thought the girl was guilty. He didn't realize that she didn't deserve to die for this. Chen Yuan surrendered to the question of whether he was so heartless that he didn't have much compassion. One of the girls noticed that there was a rumor going around the university that Chen Yuan was a lone wolf because he had the same nickname. Chen Yuan didn't know what to reply. He didn't want to give away his identity. Someone laughed at this and said that if Chen Yuan was really a lone wolf, he would rip his head off and play soccer. It was a man in a suit. He knew the lone wolf had spent close to 100 million in the shark, and he cared for every dime. Chen Yuan seemed to recognize the man. His expression immediately changed and became gloomier. The man's name was Li Yuntao. He was the owner of this store. He had spotted Shu Tung long ago and asked her to give a visha. The girl was confused. She hadn't expected such attention from this man. Li Yuntao was Chen Yuan's high school nemesis. Relying on his family's wealth and influence, he used to beat up the guy. The man was quite cruel. He didn't spare Chen Yuan and sent entire gangs at him. Chen Yuan realized that Li Yuntao was provoking him by flirting with Shu Tong. Chen Yuan was going to let him show off. His luck that the guy didn't want to show off too much in front of his classmates. Just then, Chen Yuan was about to arrange some things to check on Shu Tong. Chen Yuan decided to introduce Li Yuntao. He said they went to high school together. He runs his own company, owns assets. Shu Tong immediately blushed. She realized that he was a big fish. Chen Yuan said that he is not a lone wolf. He just received a small compensation for the renovation of the apartment building, about 3 to 5 million. Shu Tong was shocked that Chen Yuan was not a lone wolf. She was sure of it. The girl was faced with a choice. On one side, Li Yuntao, on the other, someone she likes but not particularly rich. The girl's disposition began to fall. Chen Yuan was no longer her object of worship. Shu Tong happily gave her WeChat to Li Yuntao. She wasn't going to miss out on such a big fish. The girl believed that even a fool would make the right choice in favor of the richer one. Li Yuntao decided to make fun of Chen Yuan since his first love had just given him his number. Li Yuntao felt like he had beaten the guy straight like a stray dog, and now he would just run him over. Chen Yuan was very surprised. This really heated the guy up a bit. Li Yuntao told his man that they were classmates before and asked him to pay for Chen Yuan's table. Chen Yuan laughed. He was shaking with tension. He realized something. Everyone present looked at him in surprise. They were worried about the guy. Chen Yuan replied that everything was fine. An insight had just suddenly come to him. The guy gave Shu Tong a chance to make things right, but it's no one's fault that she can't get over herself. From now on, the guy won't even show the minimum of empathy towards Shu Tong. It was because the girl just didn't deserve it. The guy got angry. Chen Yuan went to the exit. Li Yuntao was waiting for him there and invited him to a classmates meeting. Chen Yuan paused for a moment. He thought that this really wasn't a bad opportunity. The guy thanked Li Yuntao for the invitation and said he would definitely go. The events take place in Juzhou in room number 888. There was a vacation reunion. They hadn't seen each other in ages. Everyone raised their glasses. All expenses were covered by Li Yuntao. He asked to say a few endearments when Zhou Yu came. All the guys realized who the Vespers host was waiting for. Chen Yuan understood that Li Yuntao did not miss any opportunity to show off. At that moment, the door to the room opened. Someone else wanted to join their meeting. A beautiful girl walked in there. She apologized for keeping the guys waiting for a long time. Her personal driver had gone on vacation. The cab ride was a little longer than usual. The girl's name was Xiao Ruoyu. She was the one Li Yuntao was waiting for. The girl was that ray of sunshine that refreshed Chen Yuan's path all 3 years of high school. She was very mysterious and noble, like an incredibly complex equation that makes you go crazy. Chen Yuan smiled. He had a plan. It looked like he was going to take action. Chen Yuan held out his phone to the girl and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. He asked her to share a VSHA for further communication. Li Yuntao was beyond angry. He believed that he was capable of smearing Chen Yuan in an instant. The girl agreed. She didn't recognize Chen Yuan. She felt like they hadn't met before. Someone shouted that before Chen Yuan was not known for his persistence. Now he had abruptly become so assertive. It was a girl with a short haircut. She said that Chen Yuan is asking for friends of rich people's sons, then just stalking them. The girl claimed that Chen Yuan was harassing several people from wealthy families and even dragged Liu Wenzi into it. The girl's name was Liao Jia. One of the guys declared that this was obviously some nonsense. Liao Jia stated that Liu Wenzi just played with her feelings and threw away like a worthless mug. After the breakup, he immediately found someone else. The guys thought Chen Yuan wasn't a good person. They were sure he would sell the contact to Xiao Ruoyu. Everyone began to discuss this situation. At this time, Xiao Ruoyu's disposition was falling lower and lower. Li Yuntao said that if Chen Yuan doesn't have enough money, he can help him because he has jobs for everyone. Chen Yuan realized that Liao Jia had decided to accuse him of all the deadly sins, and it seems she had contacted Li Yuntao. Chen Yuan was very angry. He took out his phone and believed that they had dug their own hole this time. The guy texted Zhang Huotian and asked him to bring his LaFerrari to the entrance of the restaurant. The reunion was already over. The guys were leaving the restaurant and thanking the host. Li Yuntao was pleased because Chen Yuan would not dare to look anyone in the eye now. Li Yuntao offered to drive Xiao Ruoyu home. Today he would become her personal driver and not go on vacation. One of the staff was looking for Li Yuntao. He asked to park the car. He was very angry. The guy explained that those are the rules, and after 9 their parking lots are only available to VIP guests, and one such is currently waiting. Li Yuntao was angry. He was going to look at this VIP guest. There were a lot of high-end cars parked around the parking lot, and they were expensive. Li Yuntao was about to look and see who they had with such an attitude. At that moment, the guy saw a LaFerrari that cost over 20 million. He had only seen one of these at exhibitions. Zhang Huotian from Zhang Group came out of the car. Everyone knew him and his status. Everyone was surprised. He is known in the higher circles of the children of rich people. Luckily, none of them clashed with him. Zhang Huotian shook hands with Chen Yuan. Everyone around him was surprised and did not understand why the guys knew each other. Chen Yuan thanked Zhang Huotian. The latter replied that it was difficult for him. They are brothers after all, and he is honored. Li Yuntao was startled to realize that this was Chen Yuan's car. He didn't understand why such a high-ranking person was being so polite to him. The guys started to discuss what was happening. They couldn't believe that the guy was so rich. At this time, Chen Yuan was about to introduce one of his former classmates. The girls were angry at Liao Jia because they were going to humiliate Chen Yuan, and he was really rich. Xiao Ruoyu realized that it looked like Li Yuntao and Liao Jia were trying to slander Chen Yuan. And Chen Yuan is actually a really noble and well-mannered person, didn't even try to justify himself. The girl thought this guy was pretty interesting. Her disposition increased. Chen Yuan smirked. Everything was going according to his plan. Chen Yuan asked if Xiao Ruoyu would let her down. He extended his hand to the girl. Xiao Ruoyu agreed to the guy's proposal. The girl liked him. Everyone around admired Chen Yuan. They thought he was cool and envied him. One of the guys remarked that Principal Zhang had once said that the gulf between some people was greater than that between humans and stray dogs. It was night outside. Lots of cars were driving down the highway. The city was ablaze with lights. Xiao Ruoyu realized that she had acted rashly, after all. I had only not met him for a little while. The girl had already jumped into his car. The girl's musings were interrupted by Chen Yuan. He noticed something. His attention was caught by a keychain on the girl's purse. It was an Ultraman. Xiao Ruoyu didn't expect the guy to know who it was. She was embarrassed. Chen Yuan said that they liked the series. Especially he liked Dick. The girl immediately picked up the conversation and began to discuss the series. The girl looked at Chen Yuan. She didn't expect him to know this series too. Xiao Ruoyu even pouted. The guy thought it was cute. He laughed. The girl also smiled. She enjoyed chatting with Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan didn't think that Xiao Ruoyu could be so active and lively. But he couldn't believe that the indifferent expression on her face was her mask. Looking at her happy face makes you want to protect and preserve this beauty. For the first time in her life, Chen Yuan felt that she had truly fallen in love. Chen Yuan took the girl to her house. It was a huge, beautiful mansion. Chen Yuan said that he was very happy to recognize Xiao Ruoyu from such a different side from what he was used to. He showed a gesture from the show. The girl supported the guy and also showed a gesture from the show. She thanked Chen Yuan. The guys fooled around some more, imagining they were characters from the show. Afterward, the guys were laughing out loud. They were enjoying each other's company. The girl noticed that it was very interesting with Chen Yuan. He didn't think she was infantile and naive, not like those old men. Xiao Ruoyu opened the door of her house. It creaked loudly. Her mom wasn't happy. She asked where the girl had been lurking all this time, because it was getting late. The girl's mom asked what Xiao Ruoyu thought about the date she had planned. Things aren't going well at her father's company, so the Khan family's investment is more important to them than ever, and her mother couldn't do anything about it. Xiao Ruoyu cried. She was sure that her happiness was completely nobody's concern. She didn't want to marry this playboy from the Han family. Her mother said it's because they raised the girl, and she eats, dresses, and entertains on their money. Her mother explained that if Xiao Ruoyu's father's company would come to an end, so would their family. Her mother understood that Han Xiaogai really wasn't the best partner, but he was at least the best of the worst. Men take on a headache after marriage. Xiao Ruoyu understood everything, but she was very sad at what was happening, tears rolling down her cheeks. The girl's tears flowed onto the toy. She didn't want to marry someone she didn't love. Chen Yuan entered the secret chat room. All the members were sharing news there. Someone had bought a new watch. Zhang Huotian also shared the news. He told everyone to watch rather one of the sites. Chen Yuan was eating at this time. He didn't understand what Zhang Huotian wanted to tell Zhang Huotian. The guy went to that very website. It said that the Xiao family's company was on the verge of collapse and Xiao Ruoyu would marry Han Xiaogang. Chen Yuan was very surprised by this news, for he too had his sights set on the girl. Chen Yuan began to remember the time they spent together, how much fun they had with each other. He really liked Xiao Ruoyu. He remembered the time they were riding in the car. Chen Yuan became sad. He looked out the window with longing in his eyes. The boy's mind flashed before his eyes with memories of how they had met again at the reunion. Chen Yuan's face changed. He was pensive, and he wasn't going to put up with it. The guy sal his fist. He went to fix the problem. Chen Yuan did not want to take a passive stance anymore this time. He would no longer be just an observer. There was a woman waiting for him outside. She hadn't met the guy, but her assistant confirmed that it was Chen Yuan. The girl stopped Chen Yuan. He was surprised as he was going about his business. The girl's name was Sheng Shui, and she introduced herself and asked how Chen Yuan was looking at going online. The girl handed him a business card. She was from a dream media company. Chen Yuan coldly replied that he wasn't interested and apologized. The guy didn't have time for such things. Sheng Shui was surprised that the guy so firmly rejected the offer. She had already thought that he had contracted with another company, and she needed to change tactics. The girl tried to stop him. She said that they were a stable company and could offer a good salary to Chen Yuan. The guy didn't want to hear it. He turned around and walked away. Sheng Shui also added that the company is also actively supported by the Lone Wolf. the same rich man who gives away money on the shark platform. The girl said that if Chen Yuan did not sign a contract with them, the lone wolf could block his way into the media field. Chen Yuan thought Sheng Shui was a very nasty woman. He didn't understand why she was mentioning the lone wolf since it was him. Sheng Shui persistently waited for him to answer. Chen Yuan was angry, after all. He can't answer her with anything. Chen Yuan realized that if he couldn't, it didn't mean that others couldn't either. He took out his phone and started texting someone. Chen Yuan wrote in chat and asked if anyone was familiar with the Dream Company. He asked to deal with Sheng Shui. Some time passed, the boys were standing outside a large building on the street. Sheng Shui was still no way behind. She asked if Chen Yuan had thought of her continuing. This is the moment her boss started calling her. The girl was very surprised because she did not expect the call. Her boss yelled at her. He called her a crazy woman and called her on the carpet. He said she wasn't thinking at all. Sheng Shui was shaking with fear. She didn't understand what was happening and what she had done wrong. Chen Yuan could finally go on about his business. He was angry at the Han group for taking the woman away from him. Mama Juyu tried to cheer up her daughter after all. It was just a date with the heir to the Han family. She shouldn't have been so sour. The company's situation of their family leaves a lot to be desired. Her father has experienced such stress running and on the help of everyone, and now the Khan family is ready to help them, and requires not much in return. At this moment, a message came to Joyu's phone. The girl picked up her phone to look. It was Chen Yuan who wrote, asking where the girl was now. Joyu wrote that she was going to the Royal Hotel on family business. Chen Yuan told her to give her exact location and wait for him. Joyu was surprised. She didn't understand how Chen Yuan knew about her date. The girl recalled the moments they spent together, how they were driving home in the car, and they were having fun. Joyu thought that if compared to Han Xiaogang, Chen Yuan is more good. Her father was driving. He said he had never asked her for anything, but was now asking her to be sympathetic to what was happening. Joyu didn't know what to say. She didn't want to disappoint, but she didn't want to get married either. The girl said she understood. She was very upset. She wasn't wearing her face. Joyu arrived with her parents at the hotel where the date was to take place. Their car pulled up to the hotel. They were already met by a man who would take them to see Director Han. The assistant said hello to Director Xiao and said that Director Han was in meeting room 305. He would lead them. This man had heard before that the Xiao family's daughter was an incredible beauty, but he thought that it was better to see once than hear 100 times. The man felt bad that soon young Master Han would have nothing left of her. He was going to abuse the girl. As they were walking towards the meeting place, Joyu noticed something. The girl was very surprised and stopped. Her father was carrying a briefcase of documents. The girl didn't understand why he needed so many. After all, it wasn't just a big meeting. The aide escorted the Xiao family to this very meeting room. He opened the door. Director Han and his son were already waiting for them there. He said hello and told Xiaogang to prepare tea for the guests. After all, they were almost one family. Joyun was surprised entering the room. The girl was stunned. On the table were marital property agreements, a prenuptial agreement. She realized this wasn't just a meeting. Joyun realized that her father was up to something. The girl looked at him suspiciously. The Khan Corporation was closely tied to shady industries. At the helm of the company is Han Sushui, who is known for his deviousness and drive for profit. Han Sushui noticed that Joyu had grown up to become a beautiful woman. Joyu was going to be polite. She thanked for the compliment. The girl texted Chen Yuan that she was in room 305. Han Xiaogang was glad that Joyu had come, for he had been unable to sleep or eat since the vulgar encounter. He told her not to worry, for his father would help them overcome their family's difficulties. Joyu was disgusted by this guy. She didn't even want to socialize with him. Han Xiaogang told the girl would be a little more polite. He put his hand to her back. Han Xiaogang's hand went lower. He squeezed her body and said that they were almost one family. Joyu slapped the guy's hand. She was angry she didn't understand how he dared. After all, no one would want to be one family with him. Her father got angry. He asked how her daughter talking to Xiaogang is rude. Joyu was even more angry. She didn't understand why her father was treating her like this. Tears came to the girl's eyes. Her father said that his daughter wasn't intelligent enough and shouldn't pay attention to her. He really thought that she and Xiaogang were suitable for each other. Everyone sat down at the negotiating table and started looking at the documents. The first one was the stock transfer agreement. The aide said that according to the agreement, the Han family would give Xiao Corporation 100 million to buy 20% of the shares on the condition of Joyu becoming Xiaogang's wife. The last transfer of money was to take place after Joyu gave birth to the Han family's heir. The girl grabbed the contract papers. She was shocked at such terms. Joyu didn't understand what marriage was about. She didn't want any of it. The girl thought that her father cheated her. He just wants to sell his daughter, the girl cried. Her mother tried to calm down Joyu. The girl replied sharply that she didn't want to calm down. Joyu didn't understand why, if they had business problems, her parents were even willing to sacrifice their own daughter's life. Juyu told them not to say they didn't know Xiaogang indulged in gluttony, drunkenness, debauchery, and gambling. She had no intention of marrying him. These words angered Joyu's father. He wanted to stop his daughter and slapped her face with his hand. The girl was shocked that her own father had raised his hand on her. She cried bitterly. Her father called the girl a spoiled brat. They have problems, but she still only thinks of herself. He didn't understand why he was being punished like this. Zhao Yu kept crying. She didn't understand what her father meant and why he only thought of himself. The mother said that the daughter should understand from her father, after all, does all this for their family. Their daughter has always been a sensible girl. Zhou Yu didn't understand what her mother was talking about. After all, if a company was in trouble, a little more effort could be put into making this crisis pass. The mother fell to her knees. No one expected it to go this far. Zhou Yu's mother began to plead with her daughter. She asked her to just take pity on her poor mother. Everyone was watching this situation in surprise. They were waiting for the girl's response. Zhou Yu didn't know what she was doing. She was in shock and didn't understand what was going on. The girl tried to raise her mother, however, when she said that she has no choice. They are desperate, and unless the girl agrees to this marriage, she is not going up. Zhou Yu was upset that her parents were putting so much pressure on her. She didn't understand what she should do. Xiaogang was also trying to convince the girl, after all. He really liked her. If she accepted his proposal, he would get stars from the sky for her. Zhou Yu cried bitterly. She didn't realize if this was really her destiny. The girl knew that being born into such a family implied a certain responsibility. She was like being in a golden cage. Zhou Yu Basa agreed. She told her mother to get up. There was no other choice. The mother changed and rejoiced. She called her daughter a good girl. The father apologized and said he had overreacted. Director Han motioned to continue with the contract as there were no further objections. Director Xiao agreed. After all, the contract is the most important thing. The sooner they sign it, the sooner the wedding will take place, and the money will go into Principal Xiao's account. Xiaogang is very duplicitous. He realized that the girl looks up to him and doesn't want to become his wife. He wondered what such a cold board-measuring woman would be like in bed. He was already starting to imagine it. The guy was drooling with anticipation. Both families were discussing contracts at the table, while Zhou Yu stood by her side and accepted her fate. At this moment, the door was kicked open by Chen Yuan. He was very angry, for someone here was making an attempt on him. Zhou Yu was very surprised. She didn't expect Chen Yuan to come to her rescue at all. Both families looked at him angrily. They didn't know the guy. Chen Yuan angrily asked, "Which one of them here is the happy groom as a major?" He wanted to look at this daredevil. Zhou Yu was flattered that Chen Yuan had actually come. The girl rejoiced and smiled. Xiaogang didn't realize where this guy came from. He swung his fist and flew at Chen Yuan. However, Chen Yuan was stronger. He easily hit the guy's face with his fist. His tooth came out. Xiaogang flew back from such a strong blow, he was defeated. Chen Yuan thought Xiaogang was mediocre and told him to complain to daddy. Xiaogang do not understand how the guy dared to push him. His guards got angry and asked, "At least knows Chen Yuan to what kind of people I have been to." Chen Yuan knew this two old men. One wants to sell his daughter, and the other is buying her. Chen Yuan could make their family disappear from Seoul forever. Principal Han knew that this deal was confidential. The cronies thought it was just an organizational date for the parents, and didn't accept how Chen Yuan knew how to find them. The man realized that it was as simple as that. He wondered who Chen Yuan was. Director Han said that unfortunately he didn't know Chen Yuan's last name, but he was happy to pay them a visit when the schedule allowed. Chen Yuan felt that they were not competent enough to do so. Xiaogang asked how Chen Yuan was supposed to speak. His father told him to close his mouth, because you have to think before you speak. Chen Yuan told Zhou Yu not to worry, he was willing to help her family. Zhou Yu was very happy about it. Tears welled up in her eyes. She had not even hoped for such a thing. He picked up the marriage contract from the table and started reading it. Father Zhou Yu was shocked by it. The guy realized they wanted to sell her for 100 million. He thought they were undervaluing their daughter. Chen Yuan broke the agreement. Give them 600 million and buy 60% of the shares. Everyone present was shocked at such an offer. It was a huge amount of money. Director Han understood to be able to cash such an amount, the company's revenue should be above 10 billion. The man could read people like open books, but Chen Yuan he could not understand. It seemed strange to him. Father Zhou Yu realized that with this amount of money, he could not only revive the company, but even expand it. Of course, Chen Yuan would not give such money just for pretty eyes. The guy had his own requirements. Chen Yuan pointed at Zhou Yu. She was very surprised and didn't expect such a thing. The girl was already thinking that Chen Yuan wanted to buy her for 500 million. The girl dropped her purse to the floor in surprise. There was no way she expected this. Zhou Yu thought that Chen Yuan is just like the rest of them. She was disappointed in the guy. She wondered if he too thought the girl was just a commodity to be sold and bought at will. However, the guy had another condition. 60% of the corporation's shares had to be rewritten to Xiao Ruoyu. Chen Yuan said that as soon as it is documented, 500 million will be deposited into their account. Zhu Yu was impressed by such noble deeds of Chen Yuan. The girl had not expected such a thing. It was as if Chen Yuan had removed the lock from the girl's golden cage, where she had lived her entire life. Zhu Yu, like a beautiful bird, plowed out of that cage for good, not wanting to stay there. She knew that a true hero of Valid existed, and Chen Yuan, he was her hero. The girl's disposition increased. She cried with happiness. The secretary reported that a new contract has been prepared and asked that it be signed at a specified location. Chen Yuan told the girl to sign after all. No one else would be able to tell her what to do. At this moment, a transfer of 500 million yuan was made to the Xiao family's account. Mother Zhou Yu was very happy that the money actually came. She couldn't believe it. Their problems had been solved. Father Zhou Yu was surprised that this was Chen Yuan's only demand. He couldn't believe it. Chen Yuan replied that he thinks about the prosperity and decline of their companies, and if in the future they make his daughter do something she doesn't want to, he will show that fine line. Furthermore, Chen Yuan was going to show them what true agony was if they did not fulfill his demands. Chen Yuan told the girl that they were done here. The guys left. Director Han was delighted with Chen Yuan's handwriting. His son let himself offend the guy. He apologized for him. Director Han was amazed that the guy transferred such a huge amount of money and didn't blink an eye. Only the richest people in the country could do something like this. Han understood that Chen Yuan was incredibly influential. He felt that it was not worth confronting him. Xiao Gai shouted that when Chen Yuan first started, he had a grudge against him. Director Han slapped his son in the face, called him an ungrateful child. He thought his whole company would go down the drain if it fell into his hands. Right now, Principal Han was about to give his son a good thrashing, at which time the boys were already leaving the room. Chen Yuan's car was parked outside the hotel. The guys got out and got into it. Zhou Yu thanked Chen Yuan for saving her. The girl was embarrassed. Chen Yuan said that it was okay because it was not the first time. He tried to turn on the music on his car. Sometime long ago, back in my school days, when it was a dark late night, there was an incident. Zhu Yu was riding her bike. Someone called her inattentive at this late time of the day. Surely the girl wasn't afraid to meet bad people. The girl saw someone standing in front of her. She slowed down, the headlights from the car lighting the way. A group of men approached Zhou Yu and asked who they were and what they wanted. They had been tight on money lately and wanted her to lend them some. One of them said it's okay if she doesn't have any money. The girl is so beautiful, they'll just take in kind. The man told Zhou Yu to scream as much as she wanted. The louder she did it, the funnier it would look. At that moment, someone was already running to the girl's aid. He took down that thug with his body and told her to run. It was Chen Yuan. He told Zhou Yu to run away quickly and not to turn around. The girl listened to the guy. She turned around and ran to escape. These guys started beating up Chen Yuan. They didn't understand where this little guy came from. He ruined everything for them. At that time, Zhou Yu was too scared and didn't realize who had saved her then. When the girl regained consciousness, she brought police officers to the scene, but it was already over. Zhou Yu really thought she would never meet the man who had saved her back then. She had never thought that Chen Yuan was the guy, but she was excited and embarrassed. The moment the girl's disposition reached 95 points, Chen Yuan could counterattack her. Chen Yuan was given a cashback of 50 million, and the girl became a fan of the host. Chen Yuan was shocked that everything happened so quickly. After all, he hadn't even used his trump cards. However, the guy thought that maybe it wasn't even a bad thing. Zhou Yu really liked him. This time the guy wasn't going to be a bystander like he did during his high school years. Now Chen Yuan has the strength and opportunity to be near the girl and show his feelings. Chen Yuan was not going to let himself down from the past. He was going to act. Chen Yuan blushed. He moved closer to Zhou Yu's face. The guys almost kissed. Their lips were already very close together. However, at that moment there was a loud phone call. The guys got scared and jumped away from each other. It was Zhao Yuki calling. Chen Yuan didn't understand what a girl needed at a time like this. Zhao Yuki informed the guy that she had already moved into the villa and had only been moving things around for the past couple of days. Chen Yuan, of course, knew that tomorrow was the girl's birthday. He had already prepared a present for her. Zhao Yuki asked Chen Yuan not to give very expensive gifts to her for her birthday. After all, this time a lot of classmates are invited to the party. It will be embarrassing in front of them. Now Chen Yuan will have to think about what to get her. She killed the idea of a Ferrari. Wu Xiaofei told the girl to stop talking, and she asked where to hang her drawing. Zhao Yuki passed out. Zhao Yuki was very happy that she now had her own house, worth 60 million. The girl danced with happiness. She thought it was wonderful and was very happy. The guy is half surprised that Yuki won't even ask who called Chen Yuan. The guy said one of his classmates was celebrating her birthday tomorrow and suggested the girl go. It seemed to him that if he suggested she go, it would nullify any suspicion. Yuki has to refuse, because she will have a large-scale discussion about what happened at home. And besides, these are Chen Yuan's friends. The girl felt that some questions were better left unanswered, in which case it wasn't even worth asking. The guy was upset, for a girl would have been beautiful there with me. Yuki promised to make sure to keep him company next time. Chen Yuan was just trying to be polite, and if the girl agreed, it would be a problem. It was as if the boys were on a battlefield. They were competing in tricks. Yuki realized that there would always be girls hanging around handsome and successful men. She was confident that he would not be taken away from her. Yuki apologized that Chen Yuan had to blow so much money on her. The girl thanked the guy. He said that if she was so really worried about it, she could share the interest. Yuki suddenly kissed Chen Yuan's cheek. He was embarrassed and blushed. The girl said here's the guy her percentage. Now she's left her mark on him, which means he's hers. Chen Yuan thought that Zhou Yu was beautiful. His nose even got a nosebleed from such a thing. Chen Yuan laughed. After all, today was a very busy day. He wanted to play on the computer. However, someone stopped him. It was a person asking if the red car belonged to Chen Yuan. It was Shu Tong. She was shocked to see what kind of expensive car Chen Yuan was driving. Chen Yuan wanted nothing to do with the girl. He slammed his car door. Chen Yuan rushed over, leaving Shu Tong and her friend behind. The girls were shocked. Her friend was sure that Chen Yuan had definitely gained back then. He must be much richer than Li Yuntao. He was probably checking out Shu Tong back then. The girl realized everything. She realized how wrong she had been, and she was shocked. It was indeed more likely that Chen Yuan was testing her when he introduced her to Li Yuntao. After all, the guy had worked so hard to present him in the best light for Shu Tong to fall for it. The girl realized that she had messed up again. She thought she was really an idiot. She ran to hug her friend. The girl was crying and thinking that she was wrong again. At such an important moment, she had messed up again. The friend realized that Shu Tong had missed this opportunity. The past could not be recovered anymore. The friend said that the girl had no chance. But as for her, then all was not yet lost. Shu Tong was furious at such a statement from her friend. She didn't expect such a betrayal. The girl asked what she meant, and since when had she been interested in Chen Yuan? The girl replied that he was good. She couldn't see any rational reason not to. Shu Tong's friend thought that the girl was just boring him. Who knows, he might like her. Shu Tong pounced on Sun Rui. She didn't understand how life and friendship. Was it all a lie? Song Rui was surprised at such words from her friend. After all, she herself had jumped on Huang Junkai for his fat wallet. Shu Tong pulled her friend's hair. She told her to shut up because she would just kill her. The girls finally quarreled. Song Rui putting up with her friend for too long. Shu Tong declared that they were no longer friends. At that time, the girls' fight was filmed by pandering passers-by. Some time had passed. It was a clear day. The university students were living their lives. Shu Tong cried bitterly, for she no longer had a boyfriend and no best friend either. The girl realized that the more good-looking Chen Yuan got, the more distant they became from each other. If it continues like this, Shu Tong really has no chance of success. At this moment, someone called out to the girl. She told her not to cry, and called out Shu Tong's name. It was Shen Shui. She was holding her agency's business card in her hand. The girl handed Shu Tong her business card and asked if she wanted to become a celebrity. Shen Shui wants to get Chen Yuan. She had some ideas about it. Meanwhile, Chen Yuan had already returned to his male dormitory. The guy was thinking about what to give Zhao Yuki, because if everything went smoothly, he might be able to counterattack her today. He thought he should get out to the store and see what he could find. His friend noticed that Shu Tong had become a streamer. He was surprised. Shu Tong hosted a stream in which she told the story of her unhappy love affair with Chen Yuan. She cried and regretted what happened. The girl says that they were happy and in love, but eventually he didn't need her. In the comments, advised the girl to go to Want, because a lone wolf would never pay attention to someone like her. They thought she was another one of the women who wants to vilify him. Chen Yuan was angry. His friend couldn't believe it was true, and she had something with the lone wolf. Chen Yuan didn't understand how the girl wasn't ashamed. He was shocked that she was also making herself a victim. However, Chen Yuan thought about it and realized that Shu Tong was not that smart, and she would never have thought of such a thing. Chen Yuan thought a little more, who could have made her use the lone wolf's name and pretend to be a victim. He picked up the phone and called his man. He asked to find out which company Shu Tong's account belonged to. He was immediately already written that Dream Media Company was behind it. Their legal entity is registered to Shen Shui. Chen Yuan immediately remembered Shen Shui and how she had offered him to cooperate and the guy had turned her down. The guy realized that the girl was provoking him again and again. He was sure that there was a solution for her. Director Shen was reported that the popularity index of Shu Tong's streamer was very high, and it was simply unbelievable. The girl was happy with you. She thought that such methods work without fail. Boss Shen Shui shouted at her. He told her not to threaten Chen Yuan, because his one word in their company would be over. The boss let slip that Chen Yuan is the rich lone wolf, not just a student. Shen Shui was shocked that Chen Yuan was the lone wolf who had spent tens of millions in the shark. Shen Shui's assistant found Chen Yuan's first love, Shu Tong. They dated for 3 years and then broke up. The girl thought that the lone wolf would never forget her. As they say, first love is beautiful. Shen Shui thought that this was perfect. She had an opportunity to take revenge on the guy. The girl wanted Shu Tong to become popular. This was to cool him down a bit. Then he would realize that he shouldn't have messed with her in the first place. The girl thought she was just a genius, at which point she got a call on her phone from her boss. He reported that their company was blocked all over the internet. Shen Shui was horrified. Chen Yuan started chatting as soon as he saw Shu Tong talking about him on the streamer. He wrote that he didn't like this company, to put it mildly. He wouldn't want his girlfriend associated with it. He wanted it gone. Some time passed, and Chen Yuan's plan began to come to fruition, due to the help of influential people. The chat guys called their contacts and asked them to cancel their contract with the Dream Media Company and poach streamers from there. In addition, there was a report of tax evasion by this company, and it was immediately investigated. Another man received a phone call about liquidating Dream assets. He figured it out. It was as if a dream had thundered over the media company. Their business could not have been worse. Shen Shui was shocked that they were blocked, and their cooperation was suspended. Just got a letter from their big shareholders to withdraw their capital while under contract. They have to pay 10 million to buy back their shares. Shen Shui didn't understand who did all this and who was behind it. The girl was shaking with fear. The girl was brought in by men in suits and told that she was 6 months delinquent on her loan, so the court had frozen all her assets. All the streamers apologized to Shen Shui, but they decided to quit. They wished her success. The girl was threatened that if she didn't pay the real estate fees, they would have to have another conversation. Already within a single day, Shen Shui's career had gone down the drain, all because of one man's influence. Shen Shui was forced to shut down her company. She only had a few boxes left. She carried them over. The girl realized it was all the shenanigans of a lone wolf. Only he had such connections. Shu Tan's channel was also blocked due to violation of the user agreement. It was all because the influential people from the chat room agreed to help the lone wolf and deal with this company. Chen Yuan thought that the guys did a great job. He wanted to give them a treat sometime. And now Chen Yuan already needed to go get a gift for Chairman Zhao. At this moment, Shen Shui was stuck to the glass of his car. The guy was even startled. She admitted that she was wrong. She should have been smarter. She asked Chen Yuan to make concessions. At this moment, the system linked a new object, Shen Shui. Her disposition level was 0. The guy said he would dispense with the warning this time. The girl should know her place and stay out of his way. Shen Shui didn't understand how she didn't realize it before. Because Chen Yuan is so masculine and handsome. She especially liked it when Chen Yuan orders her to clean up. It excited her. Chen Yuan didn't understand why such rough treatment caused her disposition to increase. Chen Yuan left in his car. He had urgent business in the city. Meanwhile, the guests of the villa thought it was simply incredible. They knew that such a lodge would cost a huge amount of money. The guests told Chairman Zhao to confess whether she was the daughter of some secret millionaire. One of the girls asked if this villa was really Chairman Zhao's property. She and her father had attended the Junjing auction, and they had definitely heard that this villa had been purchased by a certain man surnamed Hong. Wu Xiaofei shouted at Jun Lily and asked her what she meant, if she thought her friend was cheating. Some guy hugged Lily and said that she was right. Mr. Hong was celebrating his daughter's birthday here, where the guy was present. All the guys around started discussing it. They didn't realize who really owned the villa and doubted the girl's veracity. Zhao Yuki took out her papers and threw them on the table. The girl was angry. The boys should have seen for themselves. They should have looked more closely at whose name was inscribed opposite the owner's column. Wu Xiaofei looked at Lily proudly. She thought that some people liked to humiliate themselves. Everyone around them started to support Chairman Zhao. After all, she wouldn't cheat. They didn't realize if streaming was really that lucrative. Zhao Yuki didn't understand why Chen Yuan was still gone. Was there really a traffic jam on the streets? Chen Yuan finally got there. He climbed out of his car, holding a gift in his hands. There would be a lot of Zhao Yuki's classmates at the party today, and so he should park farther away so as not to attract attention. At this moment, something caught Chen Yuan's attention. He looked back in surprise. He was almost hit by a sports car. It clipped the guy and parked right next to him. All the guests started discussing this car because it was very expensive. They knew exactly who was in it. A guy came out of this sports car. He was wearing a white expensive suit. The guy said to drive up to Villa number 1 on the phone. He was the university's first handsome man, Tang Xuan. Chen Yuan looked at him in surprise. The guy saw that the guy was staring at him. Tang Xuan didn't understand Zhao Yuki's taste. Even a scum like Chen Yuan had invited her. Chen Yuan was holding a teddy bear. Tang Xuan thought it was just a funny birthday present. Zhao Yuki noticed the guy. She was glad that he had arrived. It was about Chen Yuan. The girl said that she was really waiting for him. Chen Yuan stood beside Tang Xuan. They both turned around.